It started with a single insect, no bigger than a tic-tac. With wings tucked beneath an olive-green shell, it marched haplessly across the counter towards me, or more accurately towards the condensation ring around the half-melted icy, the one I'd forgotten on the counter. My mind registered the bug's presence a full 3 seconds before the proper reaction set in. I looked down from the book I'd been reading all afternoon, noticed a viridescent ant-like creature, and looked back at my book. Then, quite unexpectedly, a sense of panic, roundhouse kicked me in the face. I screamed, slamming the book down on top of the insect, and shouted to my coworker, "Jerry, code green, get the kit!" Jerry, who had spent the last 2 hours sitting on a milk crate behind the counter, watched clips from RuPaul's Drag Race on his phone. Suddenly sprang into action. "I'm on it," he yelled, as he dove over the counter, taking the entire Powerball display with him and crashing onto the other side. He hit the ground, bounced back up, and sprinted into the dry storage room where I had painstakingly arranged a number of emergency kits for just such an occasion as this. For those of you new to this blog, I should probably take a second and explain a few things. The gas station where Jerry and I work has been around for a long time, at least as long as the town it was built next to. It has a rich and complicated history that I won't bore you with, but suffice to say that weird things happen here. More specifically, bad things happen here. I hate using the word cursed, but there have been many deaths and dismemberments on company grounds that people around these parts refer to the ambulances as gas station wagons, so I'll let you do the math. The previous owners didn't seem to care all that much about the tragic accidents that keep occurring under their watch. At times, I wondered if they were somehow in on it, if they were secretly observing the employees via hidden cameras, like we were some kind of giant messed up game of The Sims. Of course, things changed after the owners' bodies were found a few miles down the road, under what can be best described as mysterious circumstances. With them out of the picture, the burden of safety somehow fell upon my shoulders. I was determined to make sure nobody else ended up like the owners if I could help it. Admittedly, I may have dropped the ball a couple of times, but that's a story for later. I was determined to learn from past mistakes, and spent several weeks and hundreds of overtime hours putting together the emergency response kits in the supply closet, each clearly marked for the type of scenario it was meant to maintain. Now, I was ready for almost anything the universe could throw at me. There was a box of code blues, gasoline-powered backup generators, CV radio, portable stove, blankets. I made a kit for code yellows, EpiPens, anti-venom, heavy-duty zip ties. I had a storage tub on the top shelf for any code pinks, bone saws, plastic drop cloths, contractor bags, disposable coveralls, and goggles. And of course, should all hope finally be lost, there was a shoebox in there for code reds. God help us if we ever come down to a code red. Jerry ran out of the closet with the box labeled code green for emergencies only in his arms, nearly slamming into Mr. Abram along the way. "Hey, what the hell?" Mr. Abram grunted. I met Jerry in the center of the room. "No time to explain," I yelled, tearing the box open before he'd even dropped it on the floor. The first thing to come out was the bulk-sized roll of duct tape. I tossed it into Jerry's arms and pointed at the front door. "Get the cracks and vents and the windows sealed. The spider holes anywhere we're exposed to the outside. This place needs to be airtight." "Aye, aye, Captain," he sang before rushing to work. Abram shuffled up next to me with a frown and furrowed brow. "That kid almost made me spill my drink. What in the Sam Hill's gotten into you two?" Mr. Abram was a regular at the gas station, a thick man with a smoker-stained yellow beard and aviator bifocals. He worked for the waste disposal company in town and senior garbage truck operator. Once a week, he'd stop by the gas station on his way to the landfill, fuel up, and grab a cup of coffee. And a porno mag. Time was precious, so I kept my answer brief. "I saw a mayfly." Abram dropped his coffee into the floor and muttered quietly, "Mother of God." Maybe the little bastard hitched a ride in a customer's hair or clothes. Maybe an errant wind current separated it from the rest of the flock. It didn't really matter how it got here. All that mattered was that the infestation had begun. This was a harbinger of things to come, and time was not on our side. With Jerry on crack duty, save your jokes, I raced to the back room and unlocked the circuit breaker box on the wall by the time clock. The sun hadn't set. We were still ahead of the game. I killed all the electricity to the gas station in one quick go. The static hiss from the overhead fluorescent lights died with a soft whimper. Soon, the only light was what little spilled in from the evening sun, filtered through countless trees of forest surrounding us on all sides. The illuminant was bare, but enough for us to continue the tasks at hand. I returned to the code green box while Abram lamented loudly over our situation. I can't believe it's already been 5 years. Are you sure? Are you sure it was a mayfly you saw and not just a leafhopper or something? I retrieved a can of bug spray and lighter from the emergency box, tucked them into the hoodie pocket, then pulled out the case of surgical masks. It wasn't a leafhopper, trust me. I equipped the mask and offered a case to Abram. He didn't hesitate to put one on for himself. I was lucky he was a local. That meant I didn't have to waste any precious time explaining what was going on, or why it was so urgent. He fumbled with the mask in his hands and worked his way through the denial stage of terror. Could it have been a thrip or a aphid? I know what I saw. I'm pretty observant. I should have known the universe wouldn't let me get away with a statement like that. Excuse me? The unexpected voice in my ear made me jump. I spun around to see the dark shape of a person standing only a few inches away and blurted out the question, "Where did you come from?" She answered, "I've been here the whole time. What's going on? Was there a power failure? Can I still check out?" I bent down and I grabbed one of the 2 emergency flashlights and flicked it on, casting the room in an eerie red glow. Now I could see exactly who, or what, I was talking to. She was my age, a couple inches shorter, with short blonde hair and at least 10 piercings per ear. She had a black lace collar around her neck with a pentagram pendant dangling in front, and a leather jacket zipped all the way up. She also had orange and white stripes on her cheeks, a coal black nose, 2 furry ears on top of her head, and fishnet stockings. Whoever she was, she definitely wasn't a local. I instinctively took a step back and gripped the flashlight tighter in case I was about to need to defend myself, but the young woman wasn't attacking anyone. In fact, she looked as confused as I felt. You know things are bad when your first assumption is that you're being invaded by fox people, but these days, I can't really take any chances. "Why do you look like that?" I asked before I had time to realize how rude that sounded. "I'm on my way to a Halloween party. Why do you look like that?" "There's an emergency." She didn't seem impressed. "What happened?" "Nothing yet, but something's about to happen." She crossed her arms and gave me a look that said, "I'm not buying it." "Well, in that case, I think I should be on my way." She dropped the handful of groceries she'd been carrying onto the front counter and took a step towards the door. "Wait!" I called out. She turned back to face me, but didn't stop. She just took small steps backward, ever closer to where Jerry was busily running lines of tape and sealing up the intended exit. "Whatever's going on right now is not my kind of crazy. You guys have fun playing Space Doctor, but I'm gonna go." This next part went fast. Way too fast. Abram rushed past me, reached out and grabbed her by the arm. "Hey," she protested. "Let go of me, you creep." "Listen here, young lady. You're not going anywhere. Now sit down and shut." In a flash, Jerry was at her side. I heard a thwack and saw Abram collapse onto the floor. Before I even realized it, Jerry had headbutted the old man. "She said Lego her ego." Abram held his bloody nose in one hand and broken glasses in the other. He spat out angry curses from the ground, but the young woman's eyes were locked in wide-eyed amazement at Jerry. She rubbed her arm and said, "Thank you. That was incredible. Did it hurt?" Jerry answered, "Yeah, probably. Hey, old dude, did that hurt?" Abram hissed, "I was just trying to stop her from going outside." She finally tore her gaze away from Jerry, looked down at the man, and asked, "Why?" I answered for him. "It's not safe out there. Something's coming." She took a few steps away from everybody, but she didn't make a break for the door. Jerry turned to her and said, "If you want to go, we won't stop you, but if I were you, I'd listen to what Jack has to say. He's usually right about this kind of thing." "Thanks," I said. She cut her eyes between the 3 of us, settling on me to ask, "All right, doctor, what's coming?" I took a deep breath and then explained. In our town, once every 5 years, the bugs come. They swarm us by the millions, in clouds thick enough to block out the entire sky. They knock over trash cans, patio furniture, anything that isn't bolted to the ground. It got so bad last time that cows literally choked to death trying to breathe in the middle of it. It only lasts for one night before they all die. And tomorrow, the streets and yards will be covered in green slime like we were hit by a sherbet snowstorm. She turned to Jerry and asked, "Is he being serious?" He answered, "Serious as a clown having a heart attack." Abram was on his feet now with the surgical mask over his face, a red spot growing around the nose area as he taped his glasses back into one piece. I've seen 10 swarms since I was a boy, and I swear to God it gets worse every time. I don't know if it's global warming or if it's all the chemicals they keep dumping in our creek, but these sumbitches are getting stronger and meaner. And Jack, are you absolutely certain it was a mayfly you saw? She laughed. Wait, what? You guys are getting your panties in a bunch over mayflies? They're not really mayflies, I explained. That's just what we call them. It's October. We couldn't be any further from May. Why would you call them mayflies? She had a good point there. I took a second to reflect on this. Why did we all agree to use such obviously inaccurate names for this periodic shitstorm of biblical magnitude? Why didn't we call them something more appropriate, like nightmare bugs, or hell swarmers, or dick gnats? I tried to think back to the first swarm that I could remember. It was 15 years ago. I was a child, and some men in suits came and talked to our elementary school class the day after the swarm. They stuck around for the entire school day, but my memories from that far back are seldom precise, hardly reliable. The only detail that really stuck with me was when the men insisted that we shouldn't talk about the mayflies. We shouldn't mention them to anyone out of town, not even family. They explained that it was extremely rude to discuss mayflies, and if we ever brought up mayflies with an adult, they'd be very mad at us. I might have dismissed these memories as having been mangled through filters of childhood, but the men came back 5 years later to talk to my high school class. This time they were less interested in intimidation tactics and more interested in data mining. They handed out survey forms with questions like, did you see the swarm? Were you in the swarm? Were you bitten? Did the bite break skin? Did any of the mayfly remnants enter an orifice of your body? Do you know any other residents who may have ingested mayfly remnants? And after collecting our answers, the men gave a short speech on mayfly safety. Never drive in the swarm. Stay inside and turn off the lights. Do not touch or eat mayflies. Then they reminded us to never discuss mayflies with anyone, ever. As high schoolers, we had more important things to worry about. Far more than following up on mysterious bug experts. And at the time, 5 years felt like such a long way off before the next swarm. I honestly thought that I would have moved away by the next swarm. But here I was. 2 swarms later, nearly as unprepared as ever. The girl in the fox costume shook her head. I feel like you guys are screwing with me. This had already taken up too much time. I needed to let everyone else know what was coming. I left Jerry in control of the conversation and went to grab the store phone. He was always better at talking to people than I was. While the rest of the room ping-ponged between different versions of, I don't believe it, and you better believe it, I dialed the sheriff's station, acutely aware of how sad it was that I had the number memorized. Our most recent gas station babysitter had recently suffered an attack of temporary insanity in his first week on the job. Last I heard, they found his cruiser in Mexico a couple of days after his episode, and the deputy himself is still officially missing in action. Compared to some of the others, I'd say he got off easy. The new sheriff was still searching for someone to replace him. In the meantime, I had to dial the station directly for any and all emergencies. I was convinced the woman in charge of answering the phones hated me by now, and it continued to ring. I had to wonder if she was screening the call, or if there was another reason nobody was picking up the phone. Jerry slid up next to me and whispered, Okay, dude, I've been talking to Lucy, and I think that I've convinced her to stick around for the rest of the night. Lucy? The fox. I looked over to see Lucy wearing a doctor's mask and holding other emergency flashlights. She flicked it on and pointed the red light at the ceiling. Oh, cool, good. But listen, before things get any crazier, there's something really important I need to tell you, and I hope you're not going to be mad. I hung up the phone. It had been ringing for over a minute without any answers. What's up? I asked, sensing that I wasn't going to like the answer. Right then we heard the toilet flush. I pointed the red flashlight at the bathroom door as it creaked open, spilling a sliver of white light into the hallway. A moment later, a man emerged. Without washing his hands, I might add, holding his phone in front of him with the bright white flashlight turned on. Hey y'all, what happened to the power? He looked out at the room and added, There's a costume party? He was thin, sporting blue jeans and a navy polo a couple sizes too big. He had dark skin and beard stubble, a confused expression on his face, and a name tag pinned over his chest that read, Bart. It took me a second to recognize him as one of the alcohol vendors. At first, I was annoyed. This guy's presence meant that I was going to have to explain the Mayfly history to another out-of-towner. But that concern was quickly leapfrogged by another, more pressing issue. He was heading for the front door. "Wait a second," Abram said, trying to step into his path. Bart sidestepped the old man with ease and grace like it was a rehearsed dance move, saying, "Sorry, I gotta get back on the road." "Hang on," I shouted, but he wasn't slowing. "I'm behind schedule. I have 3 more stops to make tonight." "Wait," I tried, but he was already at the door. He pushed it, but the lock stopped it from opening. In one last bout of desperation, I pointed at him and yelled, "Stop him!" Jerry crossed the distance to where Bart was awkwardly peeling away strips of duct tape. With a running start, he plowed into the vendor and tackled him into the display of bagged pork rinds. "Jesus!" screamed Abram. I rushed over to Bart's side as Jerry dusted the crumbs off himself. "Why did you do that?" I yelled. "What? You told me to stop him. You didn't give me any exact context. I thought maybe he was stealing or something." Bart reasonably hadn't had the wherewithal to properly prepare for being knocked off his feet. He had hit his head against the ground hard enough to leave a lump and ringing in his ears. But he was conscious. Groaning and disoriented, but conscious. "How many fingers am I holding up?" I asked him. For a moment, Bart stammered, I don't know. Oh God, I can't see anything." Oh, that's right. I forgot my flashlight next to the store phone. I found Bart's cell phone underneath a pile of crushed pigskins and ripped bags, held my hand over his phone's light, and tried again. "How about now?" Three fingers?" "That's right," I said, before turning off his phone's flashlight and stuffing it in my pocket. "You're gonna be fine." "Hey," he muttered, "what are you doing?" Abram answered for me. "Can't let you turn on your phone. That goes for everybody. You'll hear. No electronics, no Game Boys or gizmos. No flashlights but these. They're attracted to white light." Bart, it seemed, was going to make it through without any lasting damage, so I turned my attention back to more important things. I need to find a way to get in touch with the sheriff and let her know. Right then, we heard it. The low, piercing, continuous whine floating in the wind all the way from town. It sounded like the swan song of a dying titan, an eerie harbinger of things to come. No matter how many times I hear them, I'll never get used to the tornado sirens. Abram chuckled. "Sounds to me like she already knows. Damn, I was really hoping you were wrong about this." So was I. "Sorry about Bill Goldberg and you," Jerry said, offering his hand to Bart. The man on the ground hesitantly took it and let Jerry pull him to his feet. I still have to deliver." Bart wobbled. Jerry grabbed him by both shoulders and stabilized him. What happened? Why is she a fox? Why are you both doctors? What hit me? Is this pork rinds? What's going on?" I sighed and started. "In our town, once every 5 years, the bugs come." By the time I finished explaining it all for the second time, and hopefully the last time, the mood of the room had drastically changed. Lucy and Jerry were sitting at the booth by the window, sharing a 6-pack of White Claw. Abram was leaning against the counter, rolling himself a cigarette, and poor Bart was back on the ground, sitting cross-legged, holding an ice bag against the back of his head, and staring out of the taped-up window at his delivery van on the other side. The only sound was the steady wailing of a far-off tornado siren and the occasional slurp of a drink. Nobody was looking in my direction, and part of me wondered if anyone was listening at all, or if I just retold the whole story for nothing. "Any questions?" I asked. Lucy perked up like the idea that struck her was electricity. "Oh my God! What about the trick-or-treaters?" "There aren't any. Our town outlawed that a long time ago," I answered. No offense," said Bart, "but your town kinda sucks." "None taken." "Look, if I don't get these deliveries on time, He didn't finish his sentence. Something stopped him. It was subtle, nearly imperceptible at first. Abram put away his rolling tobacco. Jerry and Lucy looked up at me. There was another noise growing louder. We could feel it, and it was moving. Fast. coming for us. The ground shook like this was some kind of earthquake, and we slowly, carefully, gravitated into a group by the front door. Morbid curiosity propelling us upstream against common sense and wisdom. The sky outside was already dark, but whatever light remained disappeared like a candle flame being snuffed out. Lucy pressed her flashlight into the glass. I did the same. The parking lot out front was ominously still. A few gas pumps, a delivery van, a garbage truck at the edge of the lot, a single car about 10 feet away, all bathed in red light. And then, all of a sudden, the dam burst. An enormous buck sprinted out of the woods and across the lot in front of us. It leapt over the hood of Lucy's car and continued into the woods on the other side of the lot. Before we could react, 2 more deer sprinted into the lot, followed by 4 more. It was a stampede of them, running for dear life. Trying to get away before it was too late. The ground was vibrating now. Crashing noises like trees falling over drowned out the tornado sirens. There were booms and breaks, reverberations and tearing, and somewhere in the mix, animalistic screams. The edges of the glass door filled in like green ink, spilling onto a glass table. The green skittered and flowed and combined and spread from one side to the other, and soon the only space free of bugs was a hole in the center the size of a beach ball, then the size of a dinner plate, then the size of a penny, and then the entire door was covered by a solid wall of millions of crawling little green legs. Bart was right behind my shoulder when he whispered, "Give me my phone. I want to film this." Abram didn't mince words. "I will kill you." Lucy pulled her flashlight away from the window and reached into her pocket and retrieved her keys. "What are you doing?" I asked. "I want to check on something." She pressed a button on her key fob before we could stop her, and the short beep-beep of her vehicle marked the explosion of bugs from the front of the door, all taking flight at the same time. With the glass clear, I immediately saw why. She had used her key fob to remotely engage her car's headlights, and for the briefest of moments, all we saw was exactly how bad this swarm was. The worst blizzard in history had nothing on this. We were inside a green snow globe, inside a green dust storm, inside a celestial haze of green and black television static. The insects flowed in pure chaos, churning like white water rapids, the only organization being general frenetic attraction to the car, and in a matter of seconds, they had smothered her vehicle in layers thick enough to be light impenetrable. "Oh my God," she said, as the bugs returned to swallow the glass door of the gas station. "Is it always like this?" "No," I said honestly. "This is much worse." We stared at the shrinking window to the chaos outside. Soon we'd be under the green curtain again. Not like it mattered, the swarm was too thick to see anything, but still, we watched for as long as we could. We stood shoulder to shoulder and waited until the glass was nothing but a squirming, breathing mass of green legs. "We're gonna be okay," I told myself. "We made it in time, the town was warned. All we can do now, is wait it out." Over the sound of the insect swarm, I heard one more thing. It sounded almost like a voice. Like someone was screaming. A hand slammed onto the other side of the door, just as I realized what the voice was saying. "Help! Open the door! Help us!" All the voices came on at once, crashing together in the chaos. I couldn't distinguish one from the other. "Oh my God!" "Sure." I don't know, let him in." "Get back! Who's out there?" Jerry did what Jerry does. He sprung into action without thinking. As he lunged for the door locks, I reached into my hoodie pocket and pulled out the can of heavy-duty bug spray. I'd found the trigger when the door burst open. I aimed for the dark green cloud flowing inside and let loose. More voices screaming over one another. "Turn that off! Are you okay? Oh, thank Jesus! Get the light! Wait! Who are you?" "There's someone else out there!" Jerry shoved the door closed and swatted at his face, while the clouds of bug spray and mayflies collided, raining tiny green twitching corpses all over us like snow flurries from hell. The live insects poured through the cracks in the door. I continued to spray and they continued to die. More and more took their places in an endless stream. Why are they doing this? Why are they after us? Then it hit me. The gas station was lit up. I kept my finger pressed down on the bug spray, firing blind long enough to look back and see the new face inside our store. The stranger was tall and skinny, donned in all black, tight pants and a turtleneck, LED lantern on one hand, and a white unicorn mask surrounding the head. All made sense now. The bugs weren't coming after us. They were coming for that bright light. This unicorn had brought them to our gas station like the Pied Piper of Hamelin. I added my voice to the chorus, "Turn off that lantern!" The unicorn ripped off the mask, revealing a dark-haired woman with a face full of more annoyance than fear. She completely ignored my request and yelled in an impressively loud voice that surpassed all the others. "There was somebody behind me!" Jerry responded, "Good somebody or bad somebody?" "A friend." "Alrighty then." After Jerry acted faster than I could stop him, unlocking and reopening the door, another figure rushed inside, colliding with Bart and knocking over the poor guy onto his back. Amidst the mayhem, 4 more figures lunged past. They were knee-high, cannonballing into the safety of the store, darting between our legs and over Bart's chest before vanishing into the shadows. Great. The last thing I needed right now was another raccoon blitzkrieg, and here we were. Unicorn Woman still hadn't extinguished her light, and the mayflies were flooding in, forming an enormous swirling cyclone of green, thick enough to send bags of food and candy flying from the top shelves. I grabbed the lamp and yanked it as hard as I could, hard enough to free it from her grasp, and launched it through the opening. I felt the whoosh of air as the legion of bugs in the store moved as one and chased the light outside, milliseconds before Jerry closed the door and I locked it all over again. "You okay?" "Yeet!" "The hell? That was my light! You idiots, shut up! Did you see that?" I finally stopped blasting bug spray and went to try to reapply tattered strips of duct tape. There was no time to lose. I needed to secure the door, check on the new refugees, and track down the 4 bandit cats before they started setting traps. I was surprised when Lucy knelt down next to me with a roll of tape. She started tearing new strips, holding the red flashlight in her mouth and pointing it at her work while I took the strips and covered the lines of the door. The old strips hung messily and uselessly, the exposed, sticky side completely covered in green wings, legs, and still twitching bodies. Jerry walked over a moment later with a broom and went to scooping the corpses into a mound in the corner, right as Lucy and I finished the door. Nothing quite like a crisis to bring out teamwork, I guess. With that out of the way, I turned to greet our new guests. Unicorn Lady was picking bits of insect debris from her hair, while the other figure stood still as a statue next to her. This one had a charcoal suit jacket and matching pants, with a face hidden inside a giant turkey. Specifically, a plucked and raw turkey with eye holes carved into the breast section. Despite the impressive quality, I was reasonably certain that this turkey was just a bizarre Halloween mask. Like, 60% sure. "You two okay?" I asked. Turkey had asked in a muffled voice. "What the fuck is that?" Unicorn grabbed him by a wing and said, "You can take that off now. We're safe in here." With a quick yank, she de-turkeyed him, revealing the face of a handsome, middle-aged man. He looked a bit disheveled, glasses askew, hair mess, but I could see that these were all products of the moment. Everything about Turkey Head screamed rich businessman. I automatically didn't trust him. Turkey Head readjusted his glasses, smoothed over his hair, and straightened his tie. In 3 easy steps, he already looked presentable enough to host a party at a yacht club. When he spoke, it was with a strong, sexy leading man voice. I said, "What the fuck was that? Are we in the end times right now? Someone, please, tell me what's going on." Abram sized him up before answering. "Bugs are after your lamplight. What were you two doing out there anyway?" Unicorn answered. "I got off the interstate looking for gas. Then these things started blobbing up all over my windshield, so I pulled over." Turkey Head added, "Same here. I was on my way to my partner's Halloween ball when the green thing started kamikazeing all over my windshield. I saw Yen's car off the shoulder and tried hitting the brakes, but I hydroplaned. There was enough of that green crap to slick the roads. I couldn't stop." Jerry cupped the tip of his cigarette as he struck the lighter. After a few quick puffs, he asked, "You weren't driving around with that turkey on your head, were you?" "Of course not. And would you mind not smoking in front of me, please? This suit costs more than your gas station." Jerry didn't answer out loud. The way he slowly puffed his smoke and blew it out his nostrils was answer enough. Unicorn, who I surmised was actually the Yen being referred to, pointed out the obvious. "Unless your suit is supposed to have green polka dots, I don't think it's worth that much anymore." The man looked at his sleeves and erupted into a fit of furious expletives, finishing off with, "This had better come out or else." Abram nudged Jerry and pointed at his pack. Jerry silently handed one over and lit it for him as Yen picked up the story. We were exchanging insurance information when the swarm descended on us. I was on my way to a costume party at my clinic, and I had some masks in the back seat that I thought would come in handy. The turkey was the only one that would fit Owen's big head. Lucy asked, "Why didn't you just stay in your cars?" "We heard someone." Owen interrupted. "You think?" He turned to me and reiterated his point. "She thinks she heard something. I'm still not convinced I heard anything." "Come on, Owen. You know you heard him too." For two people so recently thrust together by the whims of fate, Owen and Yen sure did sound like an old married couple. I scanned the area with my flashlight, hoping to spot a raccoon. When there was no signs, I accepted that the hunt was going to be an all-night affair, turned my attention back to my fellow bug swarm hostages, and asked, "What do you think you heard?" Yen answered. "There was a man calling out. We were right around the bend down the street and heard him calling for help. So I grabbed my lamp and went on to check on him." Owen scoffed and gave me a look like he wanted me to tell her that was a stupid thing to do. She didn't even hesitate, just plowed face first into a swarm of green. Naturally, I wouldn't let a tiny thing like her go out on her own without any protection, but you know how people around these parts can be, especially on Halloween. Could have been a bunch of thugs and crackheads waiting for her, so I grabbed my mask to keep from breathing bugs and followed. I came around the bend, but didn't see anything. "That's not true," she corrected. "We didn't see anyone. We did, however, see a motorcycle in the ditch." They went back and forth. "There's no way of knowing how long it had been out there. I think the motorcycle is still out in the swarm." "Well, if he had a helmet on, which is the law, by the way, then he's probably fine, lying low in the woods until the swarm is over." "You just don't want to go looking for him." "You're damn right I don't. He barely made it here." I'd heard enough. "Okay, guys. The important thing is that we're safe. Let's focus on that for now. We can hang out here. No cell phones, no screens. By morning, those things will all be dead." "Morning?" Owen exploded. "You expect me to stay here all night?" He laughed derisively. "You must have lost your goddamn mind." He brushed past me, saying, "I need to make a phone call." Abram and Bart walked back to the front door, where clusters of bugs were breaking loose, revealing spots big enough to offer a view of the outside. Yen took a seat at the booth table and crossed her arms, clearly agitated about something. Whether it was the bugs or Owen, I couldn't tell, and didn't particularly care. Lucy took the chance to have a private talk with her. As she offered Yen a White Claw, Jerry put an arm on my shoulder and whispered, "Dude, I need to talk to you." I looked around one last time for raccoons, but we seemed safe. For now. "Okay," I whispered. "What is it?" Jerry licked his pointer finger and thumb, pinched out the cherry on his cigarette, and said, "I think there's something wrong with Abram." I looked at the back of Abram's head, but Jerry stepped between us and said frantically, "No, don't look at him. He'll know if you're looking at him." "What are you talking about?" I asked. "Can't really explain it, but I need you to trust me. We're not safe with him inside the store." "Why not?" "Because that isn't really Abram anymore." A shiver of dread the size of Texas ran down my spine, but I tried to keep it in the down low. I've suffered through enough robberies and other emergencies to know that outright panic rarely makes a situation better. "Okay, what are we dealing with this time? Shapeshifter? Plant people? Doppelganger? Something else? I need to know exactly what it is so I can decide what emergency kit to grab." Lucy walked up to Jerry's side, forcing us to put the conversation on hold for now. "Hey guys," she said. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything." "No," I responded, searching for the right line. "We were just talking about, I hesitated for a moment too long, but Jerry picked up the ball as soon as I dropped it. "Ball gags." "Oh. All right," she said. She seemed surprised, but not really surprised enough, in my opinion. If she had misgivings, she quickly dismissed them and said, with a friendly smile, "Well, if your convo has reached a good stopping point, Yen and I wanted to see if either of you felt like playing cards or something to pass the time. If we're trapped here, might as well make the most of it, right?" Owen screamed like he'd just been bitten by a wild animal. Lucy and I pointed over our flashlights to where he was standing at the other end of the room. He was doubled over, hugging his hand, and continued to scream. "What is it?" Yen screamed. "I've been bitten by a wild animal," he screamed. Oh yeah, that would explain it. I had to prioritize my emergencies, and gas station raccoons are about 2 steps removed from direwolves. For now,
They had primacy. I crossed the room and circled to the employee side of the counter, asking as I went, "Which way did it go?" "I don't know, but it bit me right in the arm." I found my trusty wooden baseball bat right where I left it, propped up next to the safe. Now equipped with a decent weapon, I felt like I might soon have control of the situation. When I heard the others scream over each other again, I knew I was wrong. "Oh my God! Really, Owen? Where did that come from? Don't point that thing at me." I kept the weapon low, hidden behind the counter until I could see what was going on. What was going on was this. Owen had pulled a handgun and was waving it around all willy-nilly. Lucy stepped forward and demanded he put the gun down. Owen escalated everything. "Shut up and give me your flashlight." She stepped back, held the light behind her back, pointing it at the floor and turning herself into a black silhouette. "I'll trade you," she offered. "Give me the gun first." "Don't test me," he growled. Something about his mood had changed. He was already an asshole, but now he was a wounded asshole with a gun. I could only see things getting worse if I didn't get involved. "Hey, Owen, take mine." He turned away from Lucy and eyed me incredulously. "It's okay," I said, holding it out like an olive branch. "I don't need it. I know this place like the back of my hand. I could walk around here blindfolded if I needed to." He marched over to me, reached across the counter and snatched the light. As soon as he had it in his hand, he aimed it at my face and barked, "When this is over, I'm gonna sue the hell out of this place." Go ahead, I thought to myself, but there's not really much hell left in this place to sue. He shrank away from everyone and backed into the corner by the hot dog roller, gripping the gun and pointing at the ceiling. When his ass finally hit the drink case, he shouted a warning for all of us to hear. "Nobody else come near me tonight, unless you feel like getting shot." The guy was on full tilt, boiling over with an irrational fear rage. With a little time, he might calm down and see how silly and asshole-ish he was behaving, or he might tick up a spot or two on my ever-growing mental list of pressing emergencies. Only time would tell. For now, I needed to reach the outside world. I picked up the store phone and tried the sheriff again. This time, I dialed her cell phone directly and silently hoped that she was okay. "Hello?" she answered. She actually answered. "Hey, Amy, it's me." "I know who it is, Hetty. I have caller ID. What's going on?" I could hear voices in the background. Lots of them. It sounded like cries and screams. "Are you okay? Where are you?" "I'm at the church's fall festival right now." Those screams. They almost sounded like laughter. Did everybody get inside in time? "It's time for what?" I couldn't believe how relaxed she sounded. Well, not relaxed, quite annoyed actually, but definitely not panicked. "The mayflies." "You mean those green bug things?" "Yeah." "Look, Sleepy, it's Halloween. This is the busiest night of the year for us. I got pranksters tying up phone lines, teenagers smashing pumpkins, drunk drivers galore. We're not exactly getting worked up over a bunch of bugs. I mean, yeah, they're a little annoying, but..." "You mean they're not blotting out the skies and carrying away small children? Because that's what's happened over here at the gas station. Have you been outside recently?" "I'm standing outside right now." "Hang on. Did you call me because there's a bunch of bugs at the gas station?" Okay, I don't think you realize what I'm saying. It's bad here. The sky is so thick that our building is completely covered in a thick candy shell of these things. Is anyone hurt? One customer got bit by a raccoon. There might be a motorcyclist trapped out there in this. Okay. Well, do you want me to pull an officer to do a drive-by? I literally don't think you can get here if you tried. Okay, well, in that case, why exactly are you really calling? I told you, the bugs are swallowing the gas station. Are you sure? What? Are you sure you're not having another episode? Felt like someone had sucker punched me in the gut. I'm sure, Amy. You know, there was a time when you would have believed me right away. Yeah, there's a time when people would have believed the world is flat. Tell you what, I'll send someone out first thing in the morning. I knew this was the best I could get. Okay. Send the snowplow first. The roads are going to be slick. Roger that. As our conversation ended, I had a decision to make. Should I tell the others what I knew, that this monsoon of bugs was somehow isolated to our gas station and nowhere else in town? Something told me to keep this fact to myself for now. No reason to worry everyone else. I looked out at the room and tried to get a head count, but it's nearly impossible to see anything. It's not surprising Owen was a selfish light bearer. where Lucy and I attempted to keep our flares steadily against the floor or ceiling. The businessman was the only one interested in shining his light wherever he was looking, moving in a slow, steady, sweeping motion from one end of the store to the other. It would seem that he had refocused his energy and attention on the hunt for what bit him. I was going to have to figure out some way to find the raccoons first if I wanted to prevent any unnecessary gunfire. I knew from experience how much of a pain it was to patch a bullet hole. His errant light job may have been annoying, but it left me with one clear advantage. I always knew when he was watching me, and when he wasn't. I took my baseball bat and snuck over to the only communal light source in the room, the booth table where Lucy and Yen were now sitting. The second red flashlight was propped up on the table between them, aimed straight up. I kept my voice low and asked, "Do you mind if I borrow the flashlight for a moment? Got some experience with the raccoons. I might be able to herd them into a closet or something." Yen was quick to respond. "What about us? We're supposed to just sit here in the dark while you go hunting?" I know it's not ideal, but Lucy made the decision for both of us. She grabbed the flashlight and handed it over. "Be careful, but also be quick." Yen scoffed. But by this point, I didn't particularly care about making new friends. Equipped with a flashlight and a weapon in my inventory, I was ready to begin my search. First off, I needed to find Jerry. A quick scan of the tiny building showed no signs of him. Strange. More unsettling, it showed no signs of Bart. Or Abram, either. How long has it been since I saw any of them? I had to stifle the completely irrational fear that perhaps the raccoons had already disappeared them. As much as I wanted to keep it bottled up, the worry was bubbling over. Something isn't right. I entered the hallway leading towards the back room, keeping the red light trained in a tight circle in front of my feet, and whispering Jerry's name. Eventually I came to a supply closet where I found the door cracked open a few inches. I aimed the light through the gap and saw Jerry sitting on the floor inside, resting with his back against the wall of shelves. I pushed the door open, stepped inside, and closed it behind me. He barely moved. A slight shift in his eyes was all he did to acknowledge my presence. I could see that he'd found a marker and drawn a Glasgow smile on his face mask, complete with triangle teeth, curled edges. "Jerry? You okay?" "Yeah, man." I crouched in front of him, but he no longer seemed to be aware that I was in the room. I slowly reached out and pulled off the mask. Underneath, he had a bizarre, relaxed smile. Not unlike the one from his mask. Like he was sitting at the beach on his first day of retirement. It was Nirvana in the flesh. I was moderately concerned. "What are you doing in here?"
"Being, existing, riding out the wave."
His pupils were dilated to the point that he appeared to have solid black circles inside his eyes. "Okay." He kept those black eyes aimed forward and cocked his head.
"Relax, Jack. It'll all be over soon."
I felt my skin ripped in goosebumps. This didn't sound like the Jerry I knew, and considering what the Jerry I knew had told me moments earlier, I had to wonder if I was about to need to use my bat on some kind of imposter. Was this the same creature that Jerry intimated had replaced Abram? Was this something else? I needed to know. "Jerry, you said something earlier. I think now's probably a good time as any to follow up. You said there was something important that you needed to tell me."
"I did. I do. There's something I need to tell you, and this is it. The universe isn't a solid whole. It's broken, fluid. It's a broken, fluid arrangement of hyperplasmic particles, shaped like time. I thought space was fixed, but I figured it out. It's a vibration. Everything that's going to happen tonight has already happened, and you and I are experiencing it in accordance with our life song. Nothing is real, except for when it is. And it doesn't have to be if you don't want it to." He wiped a tear from his eye. "Sorry, dude. I don't mean to cry, but it's so honkin' beautiful." I rose to my feet and I took a step back.
trying to calculate where this was going to fit in my mental list of pressing emergencies, when I heard the blood-curdling scream from the other side of the closet door. I gave Jerry one last check to make sure he was okay. He was still smiling, so whatever, close enough. And then I opened the door and stepped out into the hallway. Yen was on the floor next to the open bathroom, holding the other flashlight and screaming. Owen stood over her with the gun. The moment he saw me, he started to scream too. "Stop right there! Put down the weapon now!" What is it?" I asked. Owen pulled back the hammer of the pistol and Yen's screams weakened into a whimper. "I said drop it, or I will shoot you!" Okay, I said, complying as quickly as I could. Lucy appeared from the darkness behind Owen. "What?" she shouted. "What is it?" One look into the bathroom was enough to make her gasp and recoil. Owen bent down and took the light from Yen and pointed it at me. "Where are the others?" he demanded. "I'm not playing around. Who did this?" "Who did what? What is happening right now?" Yen managed to catch her breath enough to say, "I need to go to the bathroom. Owen, let me borrow the light, but as soon as I went in there, I saw... She couldn't bring herself to finish the sentence. She just pointed. I kept my hands up and inched closer, hoping to keep my movements telegraphed and non-threatening for the man with the gun. Eventually, I was close enough to see inside the bathroom. Close enough to see the body slumped in the corner, surrounded by a pool of blood. In the red light, I recognized Abram. His dead eyes wide open, with the handle of a fillet knife protruding from the center of his chest. It didn't take long for Owen to establish that he was in charge. Part of me was thankful to hand over responsibility in a time like this, but I couldn't ignore the glaring fact that Owen was the kind of guy who didn't know just how much he didn't know, and his false sense of complete competency was almost certainly going to make matters worse. He ordered everyone in the front of the store for the start of the investigation. Jerry came along quietly and peacefully. We found Bart lying low in the back office by the time clock. One of the mischief cats made a surprise appearance, but scrambled on top of the drink case and disappeared before Owen could line up and take a shot, which only left the man even more furious. Deep down, I was secretly rooting for the raccoons. With all the remaining live victims in one place, Owen took my flashlight and stood guard at the booth while the five of us sat quietly awaiting our fearless leader's plan. Yen and Lucy sat on one side. I took the aisle seat, Jerry the wall, with Bart crammed between us. Owen began. "All right, first things first. Which one of you did it?" His interrogation skills left more than a little to be desired. When no confessions were immediately forthcoming, he continued. "That's all right. We'll figure it out. In the meantime, nobody is going anywhere." His light was shaking, a dead tell that his brave and cocky persona was little more than a bluff. He needed help, which I tried to offer. Maybe we should call the authorities and tell them what happened. As soon as I tried speaking, Owen blinded me with his light. He held it there until a few seconds after I stopped. Perhaps he was taking the time to consider my suggestion. Or maybe he was just letting his little amount of power go to his head. Finally, he lowered the light and said, "Okay, yeah. Let's call the cops. But I don't trust any of you." He shook the flashlight at my side of the table. "Yen, you and the orange mouse girl are standing right here when it happened. So I know neither of you are the killer. Take this." He gave Yen the spare flashlight. "Go call 911. Tell them where we are. Tell them a man is dead. I've got it narrowed down to 3 suspects." As Yen made her way to the store phone, I tried to explain. "Actually, 911 doesn't work in this town. You better call the sheriff's department." "Dude," Bart said forcefully, "your town really sucks." "Yeah, I know." "You 3, shut up!" snapped the man with the gun. "We're gonna get to the bottom of this, one way or another." "Owen!" Yen called, a note of fear lining the edge of her voice. "Yeah?" "The phones are dead." Of course the night is unfolding like this. Why should I even be surprised that it's happening all over again? "What?" He left us in the dark and headed towards Yen. As soon as he was out of whisper range, Lucy leaned forward and quietly asked, "Okay guys, what's really going on?" I leaned forward and whispered back, "I legitimately don't know. Is there someone else in here with us? Possibly. I heard the deep breath she took before asking, Did one of you kill that man? Jerry answered, I think it's more than reasonable to assume that the raccoons did it. Thankfully, Jerry sounded like his old self. It felt good to have him back, but I wasn't about to forget about how he had just fugue-stated in the supply closet. Was that some kind of temporary insanity? Possession? There were too many possibilities and not nearly enough time for me to form a good plan. Owen was back before I knew it. All right, let's work this out. You, delivery guy, where were you when the man was stabbed? Bart answered matter-of-factly, I was hiding. Why? I saw a gun come out. I don't get paid enough to take a bullet. Owen flicked the light at me. What about you? I answered, I also don't get paid enough to take a bullet. You know what I mean, smartass. I made a phone call, then I went to see if I could find the raccoons. Interesting, he said, turning that simple word into an implicit accusation. How is that interesting? Lacey asked. The phone was sabotaged. Someone cut the line out of the wall. It looks like they used a knife to do it. You're saying you were the last one to use the phone. Is it possible that the killer waited for you to hang up, sliced the cable, and then snuck past you and killed the old man? I shrugged. Owen kept it up. He was wearing one of those stupid face masks. But it was already bloody when we got here. What's the story behind that? Jerry laughed. Oh, that was me. It was acting a fool, so I cracked his face chimney like a boss. Owen turned the light to Jerry, who had at some point pulled his own sharp-toothed smiling mask back up over his face. Owen asked, Are you prone to violent outbursts? Bart chimed in. Come to think of it, you did tackle me pretty hard. Thank you, Jerry responded. I could see which way the wind was blowing, and I didn't like it. See, Jerry had been acting strangely for most of the night, but I knew him well enough to know that he was innocent. I also knew him well enough to know that he was the worst person to advocate for his own innocence. Owen! Yen called. What? Take a look at this! He left us once again to join the woman standing in the center of the room with her flashlight pointed at the code green box. Lucy whispered, I don't like this. That guy's unhinged. He shouldn't be in charge. Bart leaned forward and put his head in his hands. This is so fucked. I just want to go home. What about the rest of your shift? I asked, trying to keep the mood up. There's no rest of my shift, man. I just said that so you guys would let me get out of here. Everybody I work with knows the rules. This is what I get for breaking them. That was another unexpected curveball. What do you mean? Gas station is always the end of the route. When I started working, everybody told me the same thing about this place. Get in, get out. Never start a conversation with the workers. Never stay longer than necessary. Never go to the bathroom. I got paid double to run this route because no one else wants to do it. I just assumed it's because this gas station is the middle of clan country. Now I'm sitting here waiting for Mr. Good Guy with a gun to decide my fate. For real, fuck this town and everyone in it. Hey, Owen yelled. No talking! Yes, sir, boss. Bart shouted sarcastically. We sat in somber silence until he returned to the table with a box in his hands and Yen by his side. He reached inside the kit, pulled out the pack of surgical masks, and dropped them onto the table. It appeared as if someone had taken a knife to the pack, slicing holes through the lot of them. Someone is sabotaging our supplies. Yen asked, Who would do something like this, and why? I don't know, Owen answered, but I intend to find out. They both immediately turned around and pointed their lights at the sound of something crashing loudly to the ground. Whatever it was, it came from the bathroom. Go check that out, Owen said. Are you crazy? Yen answered. That's where the body was. You go check that out. And leave the killer unguarded? Owen looked at her, then at us, then at the bathroom, then at the gun. With a short sigh, he made the difficult but responsible decision to hand his weapon over to Yen while he courageously went to check out the noise by himself. I'm just kidding. Can you imagine? No. Instead, Owen decided to go for the Asshole of the Year award and ordered me out of the booth to be his literal human shield. As we left the others behind, he promised the group that he'd shoot anyone who tried anything funny. Then, with the barrel of his gun stabbing me in the back, he went to check out the noise. I clocked the baseball bat still sitting on the ground in the hallway where I dropped it. But even if I was crazy enough to make a go for it, the weapon was on the other side of the bathroom. As I approached the door, Owen pulled the gun out of my back and rested it on my shoulder, then shoved me forward with his elbow. He stayed right behind me as the flashlight reached the inside of the bathroom. Just as I had suspected, the culprits were fattened, furry trash pandas. There were only 3 of them, which was somehow way scarier than all 4 of them. One had evidently torn the soap dispenser from the wall, the source of that crashing noise, and a rather impressive feat on its own. It was leaning over, front paws in the soap puddle, lapping it up by the mouthful. Gross, but not nearly as gross as the other 2 raccoons, the ones hunched over in the corner, greedily licking the puddle of human blood. As if blood-hungry raccoons weren't bad enough, I noticed that something important was missing from this picture. Right, I guess. Someone. The body of Abram was nowhere to be found, and I was nearly positive that these animals couldn't have carried him off on their own. They all moved in perfect unison, licking the floor, suddenly stopping once they realized they were being watched, slowly lifting their heads, slowly turning to face us. "Hey guys," I said with a wave. "Did any of you see the body of a bearded man?" The animals sprung at us, teeth first. Owen shoved me to the ground and screamed. His light hit the floor, bounced against the wall, and started spinning, giving the hallway an intense strobe light effect. "What is that? Oh my god! Are you okay? Look out!" For some inexplicable reason, the others decided that it would be a great idea to rush towards us. Owen screamed like a baby and then... "Oh shit, what the... Oh my god!" The room smelled like gunfire. A raccoon jumped onto my lap and launched itself down the hallway. Owen cursed and picked up the flashlight and cursed some more. Then he aimed at me and he aimed it back at the others. Then my blood ran cold. Oh my god, oh fuck. "Hold your hands right there." "Shit." "Put pressure over the wound." Yen, Lucy, and Jerry were all standing. Over Bart. He was on his back, staring up at the ceiling, blood on his hands, and all over his polo shirt. Owen turned away from them and pointed the flashlight back at me. "God damn it," he muttered. Yen shouted his name. "Owen, shine the flashlight over here." He waited a few seconds, took a loud breath, and then did so. Bart's eyes were rolling back into his head. Jerry had his hands clamped firmly over the wound on Bart's stomach. Lucy had specks of blood all over her face. Yen stood up and shouted, "We need gauze and medical kits. Whatever you have, please, right now." As I pushed myself back to my feet, Owen blurted, "He came right at me. You saw it. He came running straight at me." His voice ticked up an octave. "Why did you do that? I warned you. Did you hear me? You all heard me tell him to stay back, and he ran right at me." I shoved the door open to the supply closet. In the complete dark of the room, I was forced to navigate by memory. I reached for the space where the code yellow kit should have been, grabbed the whole box, and brought it out in the hallway. When I hit the ground next to the others, Owen was still blathering. "It's not my fault. It was an accident. He came charging at me. Does he have a weapon on him?" Lucy snapped at him with the venom in her words. "What? Check his pockets. He probably has a weapon. He was probably..." "Shut up!" He did. For now. I handed the supplies over to Yen, who apparently knew her way around a medkit better than me. As she ripped open the bag of clotting powder with her teeth, I asked, "Are you some kind of doctor or something?" "Or something," she said, following it quickly with instructions for Jerry to move his hands. She stayed working for what felt like forever, but apparently only about 30 seconds. I couldn't really watch. Not because I was bothered by violence, but because I was steadily recalculating my chances of getting to that baseball bat without Owen noticing. She put her hand to Bart's neck, presumably to check his pulse, then announced, "We need to get him to a hospital." "Okay," Jerry said, popping to his feet. "I'll make a run for Lucy's car and bring it up to the door. Probably got the best night vision and the most experience driving in the dark without headlights. Lucy, give me." Owen immediately shot down that idea like it was an innocent alcohol vendor. "Oh no, you are not." Lucy stood up and took a step forward, only stopping when Owen pointed the gun at her. "What's your problem?" she shouted. "We don't know who killed that man, and I'm not letting a murderer out of my sight. You..." He pointed to the gun at Jerry. "And you!" He pointed the gun at me. "Get up! Move over here!" He herded us into the hallway with his weapon, leaving Bart clinging precariously to life. Yen tried to reason with him. "Owen, we don't have time for this. We need to get help." I can't let them out of my sight." His gun was shaking wildly. The one pointed right at me. The one with a finger on the trigger. Jerry's voice was noticeably calmer than the situation deserved. With bloody palms extended forward, he said, "Hey, dude, relax.
Nobody here thinks you're an incompetent man-baby with a gun. We're all gonna be like the Fonz, okay? And you know what the Fonz is? He's cool. You know what's cooler than cool? The cooler. Yeah, like the walk-in cooler.
What? He snapped.
Why don't you put Jack and me inside the walk-in cooler? Then, you could take the chair behind me and the counter and barricade us inside. We do it all the time whenever we need to detain people until the cops arrive, right, Jack? That way, you know you're safe. You can hand that gun over to somebody with better aim and use that CB radio in the supply closet to call for help.
I was shocked by how completely reasonable that plan sounded. Owen's hand was shaking a little less now. Well, I said, it's not the worst idea. Just do it, yelled Yen. All right, he relented. No funny business.
Jerry laughed. It's a walk-in cooler. What kind of trouble could you possibly get in there?
I really hate it when Jerry says stuff like that. It's almost like he's straight up daring the universe to screw with us. As soon as the cooler door shut behind us, all sound and light went away. For a moment, I felt like I'd entered a sensory deprivation chamber, but soon my ears acclimated and I could hear my coworker breathing. I hope you have some kind of plan, I said. The room lit up temporarily as Jerry lit a cigarette. His toothy smile mask was down around his neck like a scarf. A moment later, the room returned to black, save for the tiny red glowing ember at the tip of his smoke.
Nah, he said. This is my whole plan. Get the guys calmed down enough to stop shooting for a second. Phase 1 was a success. You're the smart one. Why don't you come up with the rest of it?
Well, I said, working through the puzzle out loud. Unfortunately, there's no way to break out of here. Walls are 8 inches thick, which means they probably can't even hear us out there. Even if we did manage to break out, that D-bag would probably shoot us the second that he saw us. I hate to say it, but this might actually be the best we can do. Just sit here and hope help arrives in time to save Bart. He took a puff, then said,
Bart's a goner.
You don't know that.
Trust me. I saw the wound. He's got maybe 5 minutes at most. Really too bad. I like that guy.
I didn't know what to say. So I said nothing. Jerry had said all he needed to say, so he also said nothing. When the cigarette was gone, we stayed in silence until something scraped against the floor on the other side of the cooler. I almost didn't want to ask, what was that?
You heard it too, huh?
Hey, Jerry? Yeah?
Yeah?
I almost forgot to mention this, but when I looked inside the bathroom,
Yeah?
Abram wasn't there anymore.
Oh, don't worry. That wasn't actually Abram.
It wasn't?
No?
Then what was it?
Well, it's kind of hard to explain.
You heard another scrape. This one's slightly louder, slightly closer. Jerry?
Yeah?
Is there something you wanted to tell me?
Oh, right. About that.
Another scrape, only a few feet away. Are we in danger right now?
Yeah. Yeah, we are.
I reached into my hoodie pocket and inspected my inventory. I had a lighter, can of bug spray, which meant that I had an emergency flamethrower. I had Bert's cell phone, which meant that I had a flashlight. This was quite the dilemma. How to proceed. Jerry, I'm about to turn on a flashlight. Should I just accept that there is another ridiculous jump scare waiting for us the moment the room is lit up?
That'd be a fair assumption.
Okay. Okay, then. Let's do this. I turned on the flashlight and held it out in front of me. A few feet away from us stood the unicorn. More specifically, a man wearing the unicorn mask, a man with a smoker-stained yellow beard poking out from underneath. A man who looked an awful lot like Abram. He stood upright, gazing into our souls with unicorn eyes, copious amounts of blood staining the front of his shirt. And the handle of a knife protruding from the center of his chest. Come on, man, you do it, I argued.
No way, you're already missing a finger. You do it, Jerry argued back.
How does that make me more qualified to pull off his mask?
I'm just saying, if he bites you, you got a little less to lose.
Well, maybe it's your turn to lose a digit. We'd been standing in the cooler for about 5 minutes, bickering back and forth. The blood-soaked thing in the unicorn mask had been right there with us the whole time, standing, completely still, like it was some kind of mix-and-match Halloween decoration. The phone battery was getting low, and the last thing I wanted was to be stuck in the dark with whatever this was. Jerry and I both agreed that it would be a wise course of action to remove the mask and see what we were dealing with. We disagreed on how to do it.
All right,
Jerry said, lighting yet another cigarette.
How about this? We play rock, paper, scissors. Loser has to remove the mask.
No way.
Why not?
Because you always pick rock. You've never not picked rock, and if we play and I beat you, and then you remove the mask and get your hand bitten off, I'm gonna feel really guilty.
Aw,
He said.
thanks.
How about we just pull it off together on the count of 3?
All right.
We both crept closer to the unicorn. I stayed perfectly still. Together we reached out and grabbed the mask by either side. Okay, I said. On the count of 3.
Okay.
I took a deep breath. My heart was beating like crazy. I didn't know what to expect, but no matter what it was, I was not ready. Regardless, I started to count. 1,
3!
Jerry yelled, ripping the mask off. We both took a step back. Oh, I said. It was probably the least surprising thing possible. Just a good old dead Abram, lips slightly parted, eyes wide open, face pale, devoid of life. Jerry sounded almost disappointed.
Well, that was stupid.
I tried talking to the dead man, even though I knew that wasn't going to work. Hey, Mr. Abram? Can you hear me? A low croak escaped his mouth. At least I thought it wasn't going to work. What? What did he just say? I asked. Jerry dropped the cigarette onto the floor and stomped it out.
I think he said, to blave. That mean anything to you?
Abram's head cocked back slightly as another hoarse noise began spilling out of his throat. The sound was somewhere between an annoyed cow and an angry frog. A rancid smell like vinegar and onions filled the air. Jerry visibly gagged and pulled his mask back over his mouth.
Feel better?
He asked Abram. I wasn't expecting a response. In fact, I was very much hoping there wasn't going to be a response. But sure enough, the response we had. It felt like he was sounding out the words to the Macarena. Very, very slowly. To my ears, it was just creaky gibberish. But then hand gestures got involved. The Abram abomination lifted both hands up to the handle of the knife and wrapped all of his fingers around it. I thought he was going to pull it out, but I was wrong. He continued to mumble hard syllables, and as he forced the knife downward, ripping his chest wide open and spilling wet, gooey intestines all over the floor in a steaming pile. Green dots the size of sugar ants skittered forth from inside his open wound cavity. They crawled away from the sliding blade and took flight, filling the air with a swarm of infant green mayflies. The knife reached the bottom of his beer belly, but it was only a short snag. The thing continued to disembowel itself, cutting straight down through the belt and causing the pants to fall to the ground. More and more of those bugs dropped and crawled out of him. Some were even flying out directly. At this point, I realized, to my dismay, that the guts on the floor were squirming, rich with life, with those baby insects. It seemed that Abram's blood was thick and lousy with mayfly larvae. I didn't even realize that we were moving away until our backs hit the cooler door. I kept my eyes on Abram as I banged on the door as hard as I could. My hair was itching now. Those baby mayflies were landing on me, crawling into my nose and ears and getting caught in my eyelashes. Whenever they piled too thick over the phone, I'd flick my wrist and send a miniature green dust cloud into the air that hovered and reamassed and settled onto the phone again. Only when the knife had gone as far as Abram could push it did I realize I needed to start doing something if I didn't want to end up like him. Or worse. I brought out the can of bug spray and yelled, "Hold your breath!" and started blasting. The amassment of green died on impact, plummeting to the ground in thick clumps like wool being sheared from the sky. As they died, the body of Abram seemed to react, launching its head back and screaming in a voice like a fork scraping against a glass plate. The noise ended abruptly as a lump the size of a gumball pressed against his neck from the inside, working its way up from his stomach until it emerged from Abram's open mouth. I stopped spraying. The game had just changed, and I didn't want to play anymore. I turned around and banged on the door with enough force to bruise my hands, elbows, and one of my knees, but I knew that it was all for naught. They couldn't hear us out there, and the door was not opening unless someone on the other side deemed it so. I slowly turned back to face what was waiting. The thing had started evacuating Abram's mouth. About 3 inches of needle legs, green armadillo scales, and 2 bulging eyes crawled up Abram's face. I knew it! Jerry laughed. What? What did you know? What could you possibly know? The legs operated in waves like those of a millipede, and when the entire half-foot of horror had finally emerged, it left Abram's mouth in the sound of a wet thunk. The old man's body shell instantly went ragdoll and collapsed in a heap on top of its guts, and the demon millipede rolled into a ball and launched itself towards us. Jerry went left, I went right, the phone escaped my grip, and the light hit the floor. I heard the millipede ram into the door and bounce off of it, and then I lost track of it. Jerry screamed, "There!" and pointed. I turned just in time to see it scaling the wall before leaping at me. Suddenly, the floor whipped out from under my feet, and I hit a pile of human debris ass first. I'd accidentally slipped in a puddle of Abram, and not a second too soon. The green bug whizzed over my head. Great. Zoinks! Jerry yelled. I looked up to see the millipede had landed and attached itself to him at stomach level. Not great. I got to my feet and at Jerry's side as quickly as I could, but the millipede had already climbed about a foot up Jerry's body. I tried to get a hold, but the way it moved made it impossible. Each time a leg landed, the tip hooked into Jerry, through his shirt and into his flesh. Every time I pulled, I was pulling hundreds of needles. Each step it took left one hole and made another. It crawled up Jerry's chest and neck, leaving a trail of countless bleeding needle pricks. Shit, 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 Jerry said, straining his eyes to watch the thing that had just passed his chin. I pulled out the lighter, flicked it on, and held the flame against the green shell, but there was no effect. Shit, shit, shit! What's he doing now? Oh, gross, 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 gross! The millipede stopped and perched on top of Jerry's face mask, almost like it was trying to figure out what it was looking at. I'd run out of good ideas by this point, so I just went with the brute strength, grabbed the millipede by its head, and yanked. I may as well have grabbed a broken glass bottle. The teeth or claws or whatever I touched ripped the flesh off my palm down to the bone. I instinctively fell onto the ground, hugging my hand as it squirted blood with enough force to make me consider doing something serious about my blood pressure if I somehow survived the night. I snapped out of it and played through the pain. Jerry was going to need help if... Oh God. The millipede used the front 2 leg claws to slice a perfect slit over Jerry's mouth, then proceeded to crawl down his throat. He lurched forward onto his hands and knees, wincing hard for at least a minute. Then he started exhaling in forceful spurts, like he was working up a hairball. Jerry? I said. Are you okay? He spat out a long, slimy stream of blood and then made a noise that sounded like... He lifted his head and looked at me. Through the tattered mask, I could see a real smile on his face. Jerry? His sounds turned into laughter. Jerry? His laughter turned into cackles. Jerry! He stood up. He wasn't looking at me anymore, and when he spoke, bloody spittle frothed out of his mouth.
Yeah. You don't like that, do you, bitch?
What's going on? I asked.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that inhospitable to you?
Jerry punched himself in the stomach.
How about now, huh?
He punched himself again.
Yeah, that's right, bitch. This is my house. Ain't nobody burning it down except for me.
He lurched forward and he hit the ground, barely able to get his hands out in front of him in time to stop from the cracking open of his face on the floor. A huge spattering of red and green expelled forth from his mouth like we were in The Exorcist. The projectile vomit coated the floor, and in the center of the slop was the writhing body of the millipede. It flicked around a few times, then formed a ball and rolled away into a corner. Jerry! I screamed. Are you even fucking alive right now?
Have you Have you seen my cigarettes? I could really go for a smoke right about— Holy fuck, Jack, it's on your sleeve!
What? I looked down and I saw the hell-spawn millipede racing on my arm. I grabbed at it, but the moment my fingers touched, the asshole latched in the needle legs. It hurt a lot worse than Jerry's reaction made it seem. But I suppose his tattoo collection probably gave him a better frame of reference for this kind of pain. If I had to think of something to compare it to, I'd say imagine being stabbed by 1,000 needles over and over again. Yeah, it's really nothing comparable. Jerry pulled off his belt and flung it around the neck of the creature. As he pulled, the needles tore into my skin. He pulled again, hard enough to knock me off balance. I hit the ground all over again, and the damn thing just deepened its grip. He was at my shoulder, the eyes staring right at my mouth, blood, vomit, and bile dripping from its wet shell. Jerry tried yanking again, but this time the bug just clawed the belt in half. As Jerry tumbled to the ground, I realized I was all out of luck. The needle stabbed into my neck, then my chin. I clenched my teeth together as tight as I could, tight enough that I was certain they'd shatter if I kept it up, but the millipede didn't let me. It extended a pair of front legs and sliced the mask off my face, and then, with 2 more legs, it pried open my lips. Then, with several legs, it grabbed hold of my front teeth and forced my mouth open. Jerry sat up and looked right at me as the thing plunged it into my mouth and down my throat faster than I could bite. Pain ripped into me from everywhere. That was a close call. But I made it. It shouldn't have been so close. It's never been this close before. Was I getting sloppy with my old age? No, I'm in my prime. It's these hosts. There's something wrong with them. They're not normal. Wait, hang on, what? Jerry helped me to my feet.
Jack, listen. Can you hear me?
Yeah?
It's gonna be okay, okay?
Did I just swallow a monster bug? Fuck. What the hell's wrong with this one? These reaction times are pathetic, and what's going on with this leg? At least this is inhabitable. How could I hurt anyone with these weak hands? Wait, I know. I need to find that knife. I looked around for the knife that Abram had stabbed himself with, but wait. Why was I looking for Abram's knife? How did I know that Abram stabbed himself? Well, because I was there, of course. I was inside Abram when it happened. No, wait, no I wasn't. I was Abram. I waited until I had all the food together in one place. Then I went and began the harvest. I needed my children to have something to eat when the time was ready. Duh. Wait, no. None of that made sense. Whose memories are in my head right now? Jerry put a flask in my hand.
Dude, look, here's the thing. I know you're fighting for control of your mind right now, but if there's any of you left in there, you gotta drink this.
What is it?
It's the reason she couldn't live inside of me.
No fucking way! Throw that shit down right now. Do not drink it. I don't want to drink it. Then, don't drink it. I wasn't planning on drinking it. Good. Great. I'm glad that we're in agreement. Lovely. I opened the flask and threw it back. The whole time it went down my throat, I could hear 2 different voices in my head screaming at me. This was a bad idea. I knew they were both right, but sometimes bad ideas are the only ones we have. As I drained the flask, I realized that the mystery drink was not as, shall we say, lethal as most of Jerry's concoctions. Just tasted like soap and sugar and a little more. When it was finally done, I dropped it onto the floor. Jerry laughed, but it wasn't his normal laugh. It wasn't the show off how cool I am laugh, or the I just thought of a funny laugh, or even the whoops, didn't mean to send you that dick pic laugh. It was a nervous, concerned laugh.
Wow. You you drank the whole thing.
Was I not supposed to?
Oh, no, it's fine. I'm just impressed.
Why? It didn't taste that alcoholic.
It wasn't alcohol.
Oh God, I'm about to be sick. I felt red-hot pangs shooting through my intestines. What is this? You stupid... what are these things called anyway? People? How could I possibly be losing this bad to people? They're food! I needed to get away. I needed to regroup. I needed a plan, but this one was fighting me for control of his mind, and that meant I couldn't come up with a plan until after I disconnected. It wouldn't take long to kill this one, though. All I had to do was shred some organs. I could be done in a matter of seconds. These bodies are so frail, but this fire, whatever it was, I couldn't I couldn't bear it for another moment. I fell on my knees and I braced for what I knew was coming. I hacked up the 6-inch millipede with the force of a cannon. The taste of acid and blood filled my mouth and I felt incredibly weak. I'd been chopped down the middle. I felt like all energy had left and half of my life, my memories evacuated alongside it. At least they tried. With what little mental acuity I had left, I snagged an errant memory on its way out the exit. No, you're not going anywhere. You're my memory now. As far as memories go, this was the motherlode. The millipede rolled into a ball in my vomit and promptly launched across the room as Jerry raced up and kicked it, screaming, "Yeeto, mosquito!" I pushed myself up, horrified by the new information now residing inside my head. Jerry. Jerry. That's the mayfly queen. Some kind of parasite. Every season it awakens and feeds and it finds hosts to lay eggs inside of, and each season they hatch and erupt out of the bodies. That's where the mayflies come from. They come out of humans. And one unlucky schmuck gets to be her vessel for 5 years while she lays dormant and absorbs all the knowledge of her chosen victim. Abram didn't know that thing was inside of him. And she's been doing this for millions of years. The air pressure suddenly changed. Behind me, the door to the cooler opened wide. I turned just in time to see the queen millipede skitter across the ceiling and out the open door, completely unbeknownst to Lucy, who was standing in the doorway, with a look of pure shock on her face. It needs stitches, but I'm afraid this is the best we can do for now. Yen had carefully butterfly bandaged together what she could and smothered the rest of my left hand under a gauze mitten. I've gotta ask. Yeah, I was already missing that pinky from before. No, I was gonna ask, what the hell happened in there? I looked at Jerry, who was standing shirtless next to me and applying his own bandages. He gave me the look. The one I'd come to understand is, you're in charge here, buddy. If we were going to tell them the truth, it would need to come from my mouth. If we're going to attempt to cover up, I'd have to be the one to think up a good lie. There was a raccoon. Yen pulled down my shirt collar and shined her flashlight at my millipede leg track marks. A raccoon? You look like you've been put under a sewing machine. Jerry ran with it. That's exactly what happened. Raccoon had a sewing machine gun. It was knucking fucks in there. Hey, do you have any more of that rubbing alcohol? Lucy was pretending not to watch, but even in the dim red glow of the emergency light, I noticed her steal a few passing glances at Jerry's tattoos. An angry voice cut into the air. There's another wild coon running around. You need to do something about it right now before we all get rabies. Lucy snapped back. That's enough out of you. Owen was on the floor a few feet away, his hands zip-tied to the drain pipe below the frozen drink machine. Besides a slight welt on his neck and some frizzled hair, he didn't look too much worse for wear. It's not much worse than when we went into the cooler. On the other side of the room, Bart lay motionless beneath a packing blanket. There was no reason to rush for his sake anymore. I didn't get the whole story. From what I had gathered, Owen had a change of heart about Jerry's plan shortly after the chair went into place, trapping us inside the cooler. He just couldn't bring himself to surrender his weapon. All pretense of innocence went out the window after Lucy found the CB radio and Owen smashed it into pieces. He needed more time to think, he said, to make sure that everyone was on the same page with their stories. He couldn't risk getting caught up in this. It would have been too much of an inconvenience for a man his level of visibility. Lucy took the gun from him. Owen put up a fight. It ended with him on the floor, zip-tied to a drainage pipe, and I would have paid every penny that I had to see how it went down, but sadly, Lucy was conservative on the details, so I'd have to let my imagination do the work. Bart held on for as long as he could, but it wasn't enough. He passed moments before Lucy opened the cooler door and found us in a pool of blood and vomit. Maybe we should have never tried to stop him. Maybe he would have been fine if he'd gotten to his delivery truck and hit the road. Maybe my decisions were responsible for what happened. There's going to be a whole lot of maybes that I had to live with, but That depends on me living first. Somewhere inside this poorly lit room was a hyper-intelligent parasitic creature that had been killing and consuming people for eons. And right now, it was hatching a plan to make sure that we didn't leave here alive. Yen had moved on to the line of dots on my chin. The medicine stung like hell, but compared to the millipede, this was a cakewalk. Thanks, I said, as she taped up the bandage. So, if you're not a doctor, what are you? Like a nurse or something? I'm a vet. You mean like a member of the armed forces? No, she said bluntly. Well, that's probably okay. As long as she knows her way around a pack of gauze, I'm happy to have her here. I am. Owen's voice surprised me. Yen turned around and shined the light at him. He had the floor now. I spent 12 years in the Marine Corps. I was stationed in Iraq fighting terrorists while you were in high school. Look, I knew I might have messed up. In the heat of the moment, I discharged my weapon and there was some friendly fire. But I'm not your enemy. If you want help catching the rabid coon, cut me free. Because you aren't equipped to handle the situation. I don't even need my weapon back. If it makes you feel safer, you can let the little guy hold the gun. I had to assume that he was referring to me by the little guy. It was patronizing, but he may have a point. Not about freeing him, of course, but about us not being equipped to handle the situation. The baseball bat at my side probably wouldn't be enough if we found what we were looking for. Or if it found us. Lucy stepped over to Owen and asked, "Where were you stationed?" "What?" She repeated herself, a little more forcefully. "Where were you stationed, Owen?" "I told you, Iraq." "What base?" He hesitated. She continued, "What city?" He shook his head. "I don't have time to explain, and I don't have to explain my time in the SERP. What kind of weapon were you issued?" Issued an M16. It's a standard. You were in the Corps for 3 tours. You should know the answers to this. What size ammo does an M16 use? The capital of Iraq. He looked flummoxed. As soon as Lucy turned her back to him, he spewed the words, "Hey, bitch, let me out of here!" He thrashed against the pipe, leaning his weight into it, and then fell limp onto the ground, simpering. I turned to Jerry and said, "I think it's time. We're gonna need to get the code black box." Jerry had stripped all the way down to his friendship as magic boxers and tossed his soiled clothes into a heap by the front door.
"You sure?" he said. "Are you positive that this is worthy of a code black?"
If this isn't, then I honestly don't want to imagine what is.
"All right. Be right back."
He started for the supply closet until I stopped him. "Wait!"
"What?"
"You shouldn't go alone. It's not safe. I mean, what if that raccoon tries to get you?"
"It's fine, remember? I'm immune to its, cooties."
"Yeah, but even if you can't get the, cooties for some reason, the thing can still rip you apart like a paper shredder." Lucy walked up to Jerry and said, "I'll go with you. We'll stay in groups, and if we see any raccoons, I'll just take the shot." Jerry and I both blurted, "No!" at the same time. Why not? Lucy had already demonstrated an impressive competency to know when to trust people and when to call people on their bullshit. She knew something was up. I tried for a convincing answer. "We need to make sure that it's the right one. I mean, I don't want to waste bullets on an innocent raccoon." She gave me a stare that screamed, "I know you're lying, Jack." But she didn't call me out. Yen ventured into the conversation. "What kind of raccoons do you have around here? Because I've seen a lot of raccoon attacks in my day, and nothing about this looks right." "They're advanced," I said. "Highly advanced." A minute later, Jerry and Lucy were in the back room with us. He had brought out the meter-long rectangular box labeled Code Black for emergencies only. He had also displayed an excellent amount of initiative by grabbing the Code X box. Code X wasn't specific for situations like this. It was really more of a preparation for whenever one of us needed to work on an unexpected double shift without notice. But the contents were incredibly useful. We changed into the spare clothes, sweatpants and black t-shirts, and took turns taking swigs from the bottle of mouthwash and spitting them into the styrofoam cup. I was concerned by just how much blood was in my spit. It was, to put it mildly, well above average. With that minor hygiene maintenance done, we opened the lid to the Code Black box. Yen gasped. Lucy let out a "what the fuck?" and Jerry whistled like he didn't already know what was in there. I sighed. Opening this felt like I had just lost some kind of personal challenge. The contents of the Code Black kit were carefully picked out after detailed consideration of many factors. Jerry and I debated the merit of every single thing that went into it. Nothing here was chosen lightly. I took out the first weapon. A Glock 19 that someone left at the gas station after he didn't need it anymore. Long story. I checked the safety to make sure it still wasn't there, then put the gun into the booth table. Next, I pulled out the old bear trap. There was dried blood on the teeth. Definitely too big to do the job we needed. Next, I pulled out another handgun. Then another. I kept removing weapons, setting each down onto the table with care, until I finally found what I was really looking for. At the bottom of the box, taking up the space from one corner to the other, was Jerry's main contribution to the kit. The old katana he found at a garage sale and spent 2 weeks sharpening until it was clean enough to shave with. I pulled the weapon out by the sheath and handed it to its rightful owner. "Sweet," Jerry said, taking it from me with 2 hands, the only respectful way to take such a weapon. Next, I went right to work, piling the guns into the belly slack of my new shirt so I could carry them all together. As I transported the guns behind the counter, Lucy started questioning me. And to be honest, it's surprising it took this long. "Hey, wait a second. Where are you going with all those things?" She followed me closely, which was good because I needed her flashlight to see the numbers on the dial of the store safe. "Putting away the stuff we don't need." She walked over and crouched down by my side. It was just us now. She whispered, "What's going on, Jack?" I tried the dial and answered, "May as well tell you the truth. It's not a raccoon that we're looking for. Kind of figured. There's a creature in here with us, and it's what killed Abram. Almost killed me. And Jerry." I turned the knob and opened the safe, then immediately started stacking the guns inside. Lucy asked, "If there's a killer monster inside this building, why are you getting rid of the only things we have to defend ourselves with?" "Because," I answered, "it's smart. It knows what weapons are, and it can take over our minds. A gun won't kill it. If it infects one of us when we're armed, if it manages to get a hold of a gun, that's game over. Can't let it use our weapons against us." I looked into her eyes for any sign of doubt or sympathy. I tried to study her to see if she was buying it. But she looked like she was doing the same thing to me, studying my face. We just watched one another for a heavy, solid moment until she looked down, pulled out Owen's handgun, and handed it over. "Well, in that case, don't forget this one." I dropped it inside the safe, closed the door, and spun the dial. "Thanks," I said. Turns out, Yen's impressive voice translates into even more impressive screams. This wasn't like the noise that she made when she found Abram. No, this was twice as loud. I felt it in my bones. My first thought as we jumped to our feet was, "Oh God, that thing has gotten a hold of Yen." But then Lucy shined her light into the room and I realized I was wrong. The Millipede Queen had found herself a new host. And now, Bart's body was standing in the middle of the room, staring at his hands and wriggling each of his fingers, a crazy smile on his face. Jerry held the sword over his head and dramatically unsheathed it.
Zombies again, eh? Alright, let's do this.
He ran across the room and swung the blade straight down. It just lodged itself in the top of Bart's skull about an inch deep and stuck. Jerry pulled, but Bart jumped back, taking the wedged weapon with him. The blade was now protruding from his head like a unicorn horn.
"Wow," Jerry said. "That was not nearly as easy as I thought it was going to be. Bone is hard."
Lucy grabbed me by the arm and pulled me to the ground behind the counter. "Combination, open the safe, do it now." "I can't." "Why not? It's on a timer, on a battery. The safe won't open more than once every 8 hours. She grunted. In a flash, she was back on her feet and leapt over the counter. By the time I got to the other side, she had already raced over to the table, grabbed the baseball bat, and cracked it over the zombie Bart's head. It, predictably, had little effect. The Zombart lifted his hand, gripped the blade, and pulled it free. See, this is exactly what I was worried about. The monster had gotten a hold of one of our weapons. I knew this was going to happen. I am a genius. Owen was screaming and thrashing. Yen was hiding behind Jerry now, moving in my direction, and the Bart Queen was heading away from all of us? Huh. Good. I quickly realized he was heading towards the door. Ah, bad. Bart lifted the blade and flicked it down, shattering the glass door into a million pieces. The cloud of green flowed inside like a fire hydrant had burst. In a matter of seconds, we all lost visibility. The air turned warm, then hot. Tiny wings and legs the size of hairs blasted my skin. I stepped forward, holding my breath and reaching into the fray, hoping against all hope that my fingers would find salvation. I felt skin. Immediately, a hand grasped my wrist and yanked me forward. My eyes were closed, but mayflies coated the lining of my lids, wriggling to get underneath. Whoever was holding my arm continued to pull, so I continued to follow, until finally, they fell to the ground, taking me with them. As soon as my hands touched the floor, I regained my bearings. I'd know this sticky concrete anywhere. We were inside the storage closet again. Which meant I felt my way along the floor until I reached the corner. There was a box here, code blues. Code blues, where is it? I found what I could only hope was the correct cardboard box. I ripped it open, I reached inside and felt around until... Eureka! The flashlight! The normal flashlight! As soon as I clicked it on, the swarm surged loudly enough for me to be able to hear it like a tempest wave crashing against the sides of a boat. Green spattered the walls as some of the bugs became victims of their own air stampede. With all the strength I had remaining, I tossed it out the doorway. The cloud of bugs, now a solid wall of green, heaved in unison after it, catching it, freezing it in midair, and quickly consuming it. Jerry slammed the door shut and slid the deadbolt into place. Why, you might ask, does our supply closet have a deadbolt from the inside? Obviously, for just such an occasion as this. I hacked up and wiped dead bug guts off myself, and soon I became aware that I wasn't the only one. Next to me, Lucy was feverishly pinching off the remaining insects and stomping or clapping them into oblivion. Next to her, Yen sat with her back against the wall, staring at something miles away. I couldn't believe it. In the chaos, we all grabbed each other's hands and worked our way to safety. We were all safe. Wait. No, that's not exactly right. I counted heads just to make sure. Oh, yeah. Looks like somebody didn't make it. Another asshole mayfly tried racing up my nose. I pinched it and wiped the gooey mess onto my shirt. Then, quite unexpectedly, the doors of reality fell off their hinges. There aren't any words to describe what happened. Honestly, this isn't a job for words. You could try staring directly into the sun for about 10 years, while someone pours oatmeal into your eyes through a funnel. To be clear, that's not what this felt like, but that might open your senses to a degree of perception that would allow the inference of the idea to exist in your mind. However, we don't really have time for that, so I'll give language a shot and do the best I can. I found myself falling off of the face of the world. Like my mind had been a one-dimensional cup of coffee, stretched out and remastered into 3D, played backwards on a network of computers that could only be used by beings with eyes that could see in reverse. My coffee, the thoughts, spilled out all over the table. There's a table in this situation, right next to the bowl of fruit. Time was slowed down for me. I could control it. I could make it stop if I wanted to, and yet I was acutely aware that the time flow for everyone else and everything else was still going on. While that might seem like, for all intents and purposes, like time was still moving normally for me as well, I could assure you that time was... Shit, where was I? I looked around me and I realized that I'd slipped out of my body long ago. I'd forgotten it back at the gas station, in a closet, surrounded by swarms of dick gnats, and I left my wallet and keys and phone on my body, so I was truly naked now, in the most literal and metaphysical way possible. I was somewhere inside of an infinity, and my brain was somewhere inside another infinity, and my body was somewhere inside a different infinity, and in some ways, I was infinity. I felt the universe's cruel love and understood that I was just a molecule in an expanding star. The world didn't need me. I could live and exist amongst the cosmos, forever. There was a gorgeous shining light, and I was part of it. All the pain my mortal body had ever endured was so small in comparison to forever. I was at peace. The whole stupid, scary gas station thing was dumb anyway. Hey, maybe in the next life I could be a bat. Some bats eat fruit, right? I could do that, Sleep all day, eat berries all night, fly in a group with friends, live forever, solve mysteries, ride roller coasters. Bats ride roller coasters, don't they? If not, they will. I just need to rearrange the reality slightly and I could do and be anything I want. I felt a shock. The universe pushed me back against my absurd attempt to interact with the melody. The song was already in motion. I couldn't change it. Only listen and enjoy. They're close enough. I settled in to ride the wave. To see what the storyteller had in store for Jerry smacked me across the face. Dude, snap out of it. We got shit to do. What? I was back at the gas station supply room, sitting in the corner and drooling all over myself. How long had I been gone? Where exactly had I gone to? Yen knelt in front of me and shined the red flashlight into my eyes. His pupils are dilated, she announced. Did you hit your head? Yeah, probably. This could be a sign of traumatic brain injury. We need to get out of here and find a hospital. Nah, Jerry interrupted. Just the drugs finally kicking in. I sat up and the entire world sloshed into place after me. The room had some momentary lag to it, and strangely enough, I could see everything as clear as ever. What drugs? I asked.
Okay, so promise me you won't get mad.
I will not promise that.
Okay, well, if you promise you won't get mad, I'll tell you. Remember how I requested to work tonight? Well, the reason was because I needed someone responsible, like you, to be here in case things got heavy. You know, because I trust you to make sure that I'm safe and not call the cops if I have a bad trip.
The world finally snapped into place around me. Everything was back to normal, except for the fact that I could suddenly see everybody's aura. Looking back, that seems rather strange, but at the moment, it felt perfectly inconsequential. What did you do? I asked him. Jerry's aura was a strange kind of sunny yellow and pink, swirling with vibrant energy. It was a controlled chaos, like a Picasso painting in a blender.
Well, you know, Halloween is sacred to me. I wanted to make sure I did something special for it. So, I made some hallucinogenic tea. And I may have been microdosing for the last few days to optimize my high. I thought it would let me see some other worlds, but for the most part, it just showed me truths about how tiny we are in the universe.
I know, right? I said with excitement before snapping out of the spell. Wait, what? Okay, what was in that flask you gave me?
Oh, it's a special homebrew. There's a few different ingredients, primarily.
He mumbled a couple of words under his breath, and his aura shifted to purple and baby blue. He didn't want me to know. Come again? He couldn't look at me.
I said, primarily ayahuasca and peyote.
Lucy let out a loud, inappropriate, ha! Yen gave her a disapproving mom face, but Lucy shrugged. What? That's actually funny. You know, in a we're all gonna die, but at least you're high kind of way. Her aura was bright orange and fire red. Yen was cool blue and wavy. I prefer we find a way out of this where nobody else has to die. My tongue felt funny. I don't know a lot about recreational drugs. Jerry seemed almost offended by my choice of words. His aura made a frowny face as he explained,
These are not recreational, they're spiritual, medicinal. Native Americans use peyote to treat influenza, snake, and scorpion bites, even blindness, because it helps you see out of more than just your eyes.
Yen nodded. Actually, he's not completely wrong. Ayahuasca has been used for ages by indigenous people to combat tropical parasites. Lucy said, Great, so we actually dumb-lucked our way into an antidote for zombieism. Yen was quick to distance herself from where this conversation was headed. Wait, we're not honestly saying that Bart is some kind of reanimated corpse. That's absolutely absurd. He must have simply had a weak pulse that I couldn't detect. The blood loss probably left him confused and disoriented, and that brain injury from the sword must have been what caused him to break the glass in an effort to get away. There's a perfectly normal explanation for everything that happened tonight. How annoyingly rational of her. Lucy scrunched up her nose. You might be right, but I've seen enough weird stuff in my life to know that monsters are real. I don't suppose you guys have any more of that stuff, do you?
Alas, Jerry answered. Jack Power chugged it like he was a freshman at a rush week.
Sorry.
Not as sorry as you're gonna be. There's a fuse before that stuff hits all at once. And if you're not used to the effects, well, you might find yourself falling in and out of corporality. That's normal. If you end up in the other place, look for the Mescalito's spirit to be your guide. He doesn't always appear to first-timers, but considering how much tea you drank, I think he'll pretty much have to show.
I nearly jumped out of my skin when we heard the sound of knocking at the door, and with those drugs coursing through my veins, such a thing felt very possible. "Who is it?" Jerry said in a strange, high-pitched voice. "Open the door!" blasted Owen, or at least something using Owen's voice. Yen jumped from the door, but Lucy snatched her by the wrist with both hands and stopped her. "Let go," she said. "Owen's out there in that mess." The voice on the other side of the door was desperate. "Come on, let me in! These things are everywhere! I could barely breathe!" He started coughing loudly, convincingly, then continued. "Please, I'm hurt! I'm bleeding really badly! You have to open up!" Yen shook her hand free from Lucy's grasp and said, "We have to let him in! He'll die out there! I know he's a shitty person, but he doesn't deserve this!" Her aura was glowing white-hot, but something else was drowning it out. I could see the aura of whatever was standing on the other side of the door, and it was monstrous, hungry and angry. It was shaped like a human, but it radiated an unholy energy. And now I understood. This must have been what Jerry saw when he looked at Abram. It acted human, presented human, but it wasn't. "Hey," I said, pulling myself to my feet, "that's not Owen. If you open that door, we're all screwed." Her aura went red the moment that she made up her mind. I knew what was coming, but I didn't have time to stop it. "You're all crazy!" With that, she lunged forward and slid open the lock. The door swung open immediately, and the vessel that had once been Owen stepped inside our room. His face was covered in lines of green dots, racing around and over one another, crawling in and out of his holes where his nose and eyes used to be. His once handsome face was now skeletal caverns for highways of insects, wearing away to the bone as the mobilesque army of infant mayflies took millions of tiny bites. He lifted his hands, one of which had been degloved at the wrist, where the zip tie had held him in place. His fingers caught Yen by the throat and squeezed her screams into silence. They both went down. Yen hit her back against the floor. The thing landed on top of her, still squeezing. Its jaw opened as a pair of long, thin appendages reached out, dangling from the other side of his teeth, inches above his face. The swarm of insects invaded the room. Jerry launched onto Owen's back. Lucy grabbed the flashlight and broke it against Owen's face. The thing released its grip on Yen long enough to grab the other two and throw them into the hallway. And when it turned back to its victim, the queen was already halfway removed from Owen's mouth. Its eyes stared at the poor woman, crying in front of it, its fishbone legs scratching the skin of Owen's mouth away in chunks like it couldn't wait to free itself. And suddenly, they were far away. Or I was far away. No, not now. Keep it together, Jack. You can trip later. They need you. The room was gone. I was standing outside. Cold, wet air blew against my face, filling my nostrils with the smell of wood smoke and sand. The sky above me was filled with crisp stars, reaching all the way down to the horizon on all sides. The earth beneath me was brown. Nearby a fire crackled, inviting me over. But the queen thing, it was about to crawl inside of Yen. I slowly turned around a full 360 degrees. There was no Yen here. No millipede. No gas station. This felt just as real as anything. Maybe I had hallucinated the whole thing. Maybe I'd never even worked at a gas station. Maybe I just came out here to do some drugs and now I couldn't remember which side of the dream I started out on. I walked over to the fire. Not like I had much choice. My only options were A, approach the fire, or B, don't approach the fire. I'd already tried B without any success. The bonfire was only 3 logs big, but put off enough heat that I could feel it from 10 feet away. As soon as I was close enough to enter its bubble of warmth, I heard the man standing next to me. "Yo, you're finally here, Jack." He was taller than me, by a couple of heads. His skin was lime green, pointy ears, no hair. He wore no clothes, and I kept my eyes aimed up at his face, just to stay polite. "Hey," I said, doing my best impression of a friendly gas station clerk. "Who are you?" "I'm like your guiding spirit or whatever." "Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm like your spirit guide or whatever." He had a distinctly surfer bro accent. Not at all what I expected. I mean, I didn't expect anything, but especially not this. "I'm here to show you how to find the answers you seek, I guess." "Oh. Okay, well, I was in the middle of something when I got here. Do you think we can rain check this and send me back? I'm pretty sure my body's being eaten by bugs as we speak. Your body is safe, but your mind is torn asunder. The vision waved its green hands as it spoke. It felt slightly overacted, but it was going to be polite. Your thoughts are poison. You bleed memories. Your spiritual injuries go deep. And if you do not tend to them first, your body will outlive you, man. I sighed. Okay, fine. How does this work? What's the fastest way to get this all over with? The messy spirit crossed his arms and said, well, I guess we can dispense with formalities. Great. I hate formalities. Oh, me too, man. All right, let's get right to it. First, few ground rules, okay? Number 1, no kissing. What? Absolutely no kissing. Understand? Can't even tell you how many times people have tried to make out with me. Like, come on, I'm a primeval spirit of nature, not some booty call. Anyway, number 2, if you want to listen to music, his words turned into muted screams as the blade entered his neck. Another figure had appeared out of the darkness, jumped onto the spirit's back and drove a fillet knife into it. The spirit hit the ground as the man removed the knife and stabbed it back in over and over. Black blood sprayed out in every direction as the man turned him into a bloody pincushion. He held the knife handle with 2 hands and thrust it again and again until the blood wasn't spraying anymore. The man heaved loudly until his breathing returned to normal. Then he plunged the weapon one last time into the spirit's back, all the way to the hilt before standing up and dusting himself off. Once done, he looked at me and gave a strange smile. Hey, Jack. Looks like I got this one just in time. You okay? The man looked like Abram, at least mostly anyway. He was a fair amount younger, slightly thinner, and his yellowed beard was almost brown. The hell did you do that for? I asked him. What are you talking about? His voice was definitely Abram's. I just saved a damn life. The man looked at the destroyed creature at his feet, and doubt crept into his words. Didn't I? No! What, really? Looked like he was one of them aliens. Like that one they caught up and hunting those goats in the Brown farm. I mean, look at him. He's all green. Lots of supernatural things are green. That was a spirit guide. He was supposed to show me how to navigate this plane of existence. Oh, shit, really? Yes! Abram kicked at the body. Didn't budge. Oh, well, damn. My mistake, Jack. With nothing else to do with our night, we tried digging a hole to bury the body of our deceased spirit guide, but the ground was just too hard, so we gave up almost right away. In the end, we decided to roll the body away and try to ignore it while we sat down by the fire. I had to wonder if anyone had ever killed their spirit guide before. Was there a protocol for this kind of thing? Was I going to get in trouble? Jerry would probably know the answer to that. Wherever Jerry was. Which reminded me, I was still trapped in another state of materiality from where I was supposed to be. The young version of Abram pulled a burning twig away from the fire and used it to light a cigarette. How did you even get here? I asked. And what are you, like some kind of ghost or something? Abram laughed. Come on, Jack. Ain't no such thing as ghosts. That's debatable. Nah, see, I'm just a vestige of the Mayfly Queen. Thing is, she don't just take over a host. What she does is way more cruel. He took a slow drag before continuing. Evidently, this vestige wasn't in any hurry, and from the look of things, it wouldn't have mattered if he was. We didn't have any real way out of this. The queen, bitch, doesn't do much work for herself. She outsources it all. Makes her host eat for her, makes her breathe for her, even had to remember things for her. Supposed to just be a one-way street, but there's a little cross-contamination. Some of my memories stayed inside of her when she made me kill myself. And when your brain gets sloppy seconds, she must have deposited some of Abram's thoughts inside your dome. That's what I am. Oh, I said. That's really gross. But as long as I have you here, maybe we can make the most of it. Is there anything you can tell me about the queen? Any weaknesses? I mean, how do I kill it? Oh, I'm afraid you ain't got much option. At least, all I know is this. And don't ask me how I know it. queen needs a body to stay alive. She can make do with a corpse for a little while. If she can't crawl into a healthy host, after about 5 minutes, she's done. That's why she made me come to the gas station. He closed his eyes and rubbed them. His lips quivered like he was trying to keep from breaking. You okay? She made me do it. I mean, she made me do so many things. I honestly didn't even know why I was doing it. I didn't know why I was infected. Started with weird little stuff. I got all these crazy cravings. I wanted to drink puddle water. I wanted to eat dirt. I just had to live with it. I thought, we all got our fuck-ups, right? And then a couple months back, I started having to collect corpses. Mostly roadkill at first. Then a new urge hit me. I had to start setting traps. I started collecting pets. Ran out of the room in my deep freeze, so I started stocking them up whenever they'd fit into my house. I had been sleeping in a hotel for the last week because I couldn't stand the smell anytime I went home. Let me tell you, I drive garbage trucks for a living. I tried to think of some way to change the subject. This was horrible. Not exactly useful information. When I couldn't think of anything, I let him continue, hoping he was almost out of steam. The thing inside my brain forced me to fill up the back of my garbage truck with all this rotten meat and drive it out to the gas station where it would be separated from the rest of town. And she remembered all the times I saw you out there and thought that it'd be safe. You know, a safe hunting ground. Turn one of you into a new host, turn the others into food. Alongside the meat from the garbage truck. And she'd spend the next 5 years laying more eggs. You don't want to know how she lays her eggs in other people, Jack. It's real nasty. But I couldn't help it. I didn't have no control, so even when she made me take that knife and balled his hands into fists, well, let's say I finally feel like myself again. I looked away from him and stared at the fire. Sucks. I knew what I was going to have to do, and I hated it. It was wrong. Well, the queen needs a healthy host. If I'm going to kill it, there's only one way to do that. I have to make sure there aren't any healthy hosts left to occupy. What do you mean? When I get back to the gas station, I'm going to have to kill Yen and Lucy. Clap, clap, clap. I turned to see the naked green giant standing behind us and slowly clapping his hands together. There, you figured it out on your own. This is all part of your spiritual voyage. I was meant to get stabbed all along. I stood up and faced the vision. Really? Yeah, Jack. It's like totally how I intended for it to go. And now that you have your epiphany, I'm gonna send you back or whatever. Oh, and don't forget, if you enjoyed your vision, rate me 5 stars. All right, my guy, time to go home. I shot up, struggling for air and finding none. I was underwater, flailing, bathing in darkness. The world clung to my limbs, pulling me, resisting my motions. I gasped and fell and hit my head, and then my hands touched the sticky concrete floor. The universe stopped spinning, and I regained my bearings. I was back in the supply closet, wrapped up beneath a plastic tarp. I carefully pried it free and sucked in as much air as my lungs could take. My head pounded, my bruises screamed, my left hand was numb all the way to the wrist, but I was alive. Even better, my hallucinogenic night vision was still working. Wait, that's not right. The light was on overhead, which meant someone or something had found the breaker box and turned the power back on in the station. The supply closet was shut and I was all alone. If you don't count the dried up carcasses of a businessman by the door or the oodles of carnivorous green dots crawling in and on and around him. Couldn't tell how long I had been in the other place, but something told me I still had time to stop the queen. But if I was going to do that, I would need to open that one box I hoped I'd never open. It was the most desperate measure for sure, but these were the most desperate times. When this whole thing blows over, I'm going to need a long vacation. I climbed up to the top shelf, reached into the corner, and pulled out the small, innocuous shoebox labeled, in tiny print, code reds only. Put this back. Whatever is happening, it isn't a code red. I brought it down, carefully set it onto the ground in front of me, and opened the lid. Inside was a small box. A fire safe with a combination lock. This is really happening, huh? I'm about to go kill some innocent people and save this sorry town. I entered the combination. 6, 6, 6. And snapped open the lid. The code red box contained exactly 2 things. A cigarette and a hand grenade. I took the grenade and I stuffed it into my hoodie pocket, right inside my... Oh, that's right, my hoodie's still outside. I took the grenade and I stuffed it into my pant. What? Why don't sweatpants have pockets? I took the grenade and I looked at it. How the hell was I going to transport this thing without the Queen seeing it? I couldn't very well hide it in my underwear, even if I wanted to. I didn't have time to let my next idea disgust me into reconsidering. I just bit the bullet. I pried Owen's expensive suit jacket from what remained of his body, slammed it against the wall a couple of times, and put it on. It fit surprisingly well. All things considered. With the grenade stuffed into the inner jacket pocket, I went to the closet door and I pulled it open. As I stepped into the hallway, my shoes squished into something that felt like cat litter. It wasn't long before the liquid worked its way through my socks. The floor was completely coated in a blanket of green, several insects thick. The walls were all coated in the same stuff, and the ceiling and the fixtures. I was walking down a solid green squirming tube into an equally green cave shaped like the front of a gas station. Each step I took, I felt a small footprint that quickly filled itself back in. The mayflies had finally become maycrawlers, having reached the stage in their life cycles where their wings fell off. Now they piled together, kicking any surface area that they could find. I could hear the sound of billions of microscopic teeth prying at the wood, slowly devouring, digesting the building from the inside out. As I passed a giant green stalagmite that was once a spinning rack of bagged chips, I saw her. She was sitting on a living, wriggling green throne where the gas station counter used to be. She had a smile on her face, the one that it stole from Yen, and an aura from the floor to ceiling of powerful, verdant green. I was looking for you, she said in Yen's voice. Where did you go? Sorry. Slipped out of reality for a minute. What'd I miss? That's a neat trick. Where in the world would you ever go? Why in the world would you ever come back? Well, I was hoping to save my friends. Have you seen him? As I stood still, an untold number of crawlers climbed up my pant legs. I could feel their weight pulling me down like I was being swallowed by quicksand. They escaped, she said, her aura never wavering. You should have done the same thing. No matter. We could always use more food. I knew she thought she was telling the truth. I also knew Jerry would never leave me behind. Which meant he also had a plan. Listen, Yen, I know you're in there, she laughed. There's no Yen anymore. I know you can hear me. I wanted to tell you something. I'm sure you've probably seen it all a million times. When a dog comes into the shelter and there's nothing that can be done for it and it's suffering, what do? When you can't treat it and you can't save it and you're out of options. I reached inside the jacket. My fingers curled around the grenade right as the colony of crawlers passed my knees. Look, I just want to say that I'm sorry, okay? She laughed. What do you think you can do to hurt me? I'm a god! You're food! Right as my thumb touched the grenade pin, I heard something. At first, I thought it was just another hallucination, but as it grew louder and closer, it seemed even the Yen Queen was beginning to show a little concern. Beep, 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 beep. What is that? She asked. We realized the answer at the same time, soon as the garbage truck had backed all the way up to the building and crashed right through the front door, setting chunks of cheap wall and bug spatter all over the place. The shock of the collision freed swaths of bugs from their colonies on the ceiling, and they fell as a single amorphous unit. The impact nearly doubled the size of the bug pit on the floor. It was deep enough to drown in. I released my grip on the grenade and brushed the clumps of bugs off my head and shoulders. The queen jumped to her feet and walked over to the spot on the floor. A circle cleared the way for her, revealing the clean floor underneath and the baseball bat that she was reaching for. With a weapon in hand, she stepped over to the garbage truck. I didn't even think before bending down, scooping up a big handful of maycrawlers and smooshing them in a ball very reminiscent of a snowball. Some of them skittered up my arms, but most of them stayed intact. I lobbed it as hard as I could, and it stuck the queen in the back of the head. She turned around with her mouth open and a very human expression on her face, one that begged the question, why did you just hit me with a ball of my own children? The distraction was enough for her not to notice the sound of hydraulic lifts behind her, and before she could take a step towards me, the gate of the garbage truck had swung open, and an avalanche of dead and rotting animal parts and bodies spilled onto her, crushing her. Wet goop spilled across the floor, washing away heaps of crawlers. The wave of blood and viscera hit me just a few moments after the smell, and to be honest, this is also not a job for words. Whatever you imagine the smell being, I swear, it was a lot worse than that. I would have projectile vomited all over the place, but as luck, what have it, there wasn't anything left inside of me. The mountain of death covered almost the entirety of the front wall now, save for a small window at the top of the doorframe, hardly enough to see through, and certainly not enough to escape from, but I ran for it, all the same. Once I hit the pile of Abrams' collections, I started climbing. There were hooves and antlers, more cat faces than a grandma's Facebook page, and an alarming number of limbs that could have at one point belonged to humans. Abram did say that he'd been setting traps. He didn't say what kind. When I finally reached the top of the pile, I dropped down on top of some ribcage squirming with green bugs and peered out into the opening. Jerry had climbed up the other side to meet me.
Hey, bro, he said excitedly. I see you're awake now. How was the other side? You see the spirit guide?
Yeah, I think we accidentally killed him.
You what?
Jerry, where's Lucy?
She went around to the back door to rescue you while I caused a distraction. By the way, I learned how to operate a garbage truck. It's super easy. Hey, is that Owen's coat?
I turned onto my back and slid down the mountain of gore. No sooner had my feet hit the floor than a hand erupted from below the pile and snagged my sweatpants. I ripped free right as the yen thing pushed her broken body out from the pile. Her arms were bent in places they shouldn't bend. Bones poked out of her skin from the inside. Animal bones poked into her skin from the outside. Her jaw dangled lopsided and her aura burned to the ceiling. Green and angry, her vessel was broken and she only had one spare remaining. Jack? I turned to see the last person I wanted to see, and likely the first person the Queen wanted to see. Lucy was close enough to grab me. We need to go, now! I turned back just in time to see the Queen millipede erupt from the center of Yen's neck and launch itself forward. Lucy and I scrambled for the back door, but I knew we couldn't let it out. We needed to finish it, right here. Her hand was around my wrist. I bent it, then wrapped my own fingers around her wrist. As soon as we reached the cooler, I pulled her to a stop. She looked back at me with worry in her eyes. I didn't have time to relay the whole plan. I just grabbed the cooler door and pulled, hoping that she'd pick up on it. It scraped open a few inches, but the ground covered in green insects made it nearly impossible to move. Worse, the ground cover made it nearly impossible to see where the Queen had gone. Lucy grabbed the door with me, and together we pulled our weight and pried the door open just enough to jump inside. Abram's body was still on the floor. I ran to it and freed the fillet knife just in time to hear Lucy scream, "Over there!" The Queen skittered across the wall and into the corner. I lost sight of it almost immediately. A metal shelf crashed against the floor. Then Lucy pulled me towards and then through the cooler door. Once out, she slammed it shut behind us. What happened? I asked. I trapped the thing underneath some boxes. What the fuck is that? You sure? You positive that you trapped it? Yeah, positive. It's still in there. I hate how little time I get for such important decisions. But the bugs under my clothes had started biting, so time was up. I made a snap judgment to trust her. Okay. I pulled out the grenade, yanked the pin, reopened the cooler door just enough to toss the weapon inside and then shut it and leaned my back against the door. Was that? She pointed at the door with horror. Yeah. Her hands gripped me by either side of my collar and she pulled me away from the door and flung me hard into the pile of bugs on the other side of the store. Before I could get up, she landed on top of me and a second later, the ringing in my ears never really went away. But after a few seconds, the cloud of green dust had finally settled and I could see that the cooler door had been blown clear off its hinges. If Lucy hadn't thrown me out of the way. Damn, movies do not do grenade blasts justice. We sat up and tried to catch our breaths. Lucy got to her feet first, coughing violently. I found where the fillet knife had landed a couple feet away, grabbed it, and slowly worked my way up. Lucy leaned against the counter. Her breathing was loud and fast. This whole thing had been a sprint speed, marathon length. And now was the time we finally got to rest. Her head was down, her back to me. She couldn't see the knife in my hand, just like I didn't get to see the Queen trapped under the box. The spirit vision may have been an idiot, but it was also right. There was only one way to make sure the Queen was dead. And stayed dead.
There was only one way. Lucy wouldn't see it coming. She wouldn't feel a thing. Considering how everyone else had died tonight, that's really not such a bad way to go. Would we all be so lucky? I was sitting outside in a circle of salt. Jerry figured out about an hour or two late that crawlers absolutely hate salt. Something to remember next time, I guess. When the first helicopter landed on the street outside of the parking lot. It expelled its contents before it even finished landing. 3 guys with machine guns, a gas mask, a couple in white hazmat suits and gas masks, and a familiar G-man in a black suit and tie. No gas mask on this one, just a pair of completely pointless sunglasses. The Fed shouted out orders to the others as they closed in on our building, but froze mid-sentence once he saw me.
"Jack," he said. "I don't believe it. I don't frickin' believe it. You're still alive? Jesus. I just lost $50.
Hey there, Agent Roscoe.
Well, I'll just be a monkey's uncle. Wonders never cease. Well, I'll just be a monkey's uncle. Wonders never cease."
You're a little late to the party. Where's your partner?
You know your gas station isn't the only locale of interest on a night like this, right?
He took off his sunglasses, and I swear he was wearing another pair of sunglasses underneath them. Or maybe the drugs were still messing with me. It's hard to say. He looked at the teetering remains of the gas station and said,
"Well, you want to start telling us what happened?"
Over the next hour, I gave my statement. More choppers landed, more men in gas masks arrived, cleaned up the damage, the mayfly debris, and some brooms, snow shovels, and devices that looked an awful lot like proton packs. A few of them left the gas station, carrying kernels with pissed-off raccoons scratching away at the walls from the inside. One of the men interrupted my story to inform Agent Roscoe that they had captured all 3 raccoons. The agent dismissed this news much more easily than I would have expected.
All right, I've heard enough,"
he said to me.
"Here's how this is going to play. You got hit by terrorists. Wait, scratch that. We already did terrorists this week. Let's say gang activity. A local gang broke in, did some Halloween vandalism, that sort of thing. It's an epidemic, you know. They've been going up and down the interstate looking for gas stations off the beaten path to tear up."
What about all the bodies? I asked.
"We'll figure that out later. Jesus, Jack, my night is just getting started. This is like my Monday morning. Get off my back."
He looked over my shoulder and lowered his voice.
"I know you can keep a secret, but what about this one?"
Behind me, Jerry was cleaning off his katana by rubbing it in the grass. I wouldn't worry about him. He's what you might call an unreliable witness. Roscoe nodded, then suddenly pointed to the young woman in the fox makeup talking to an agent about 10 feet away.
"What about her? She's new. Is she going to be a problem?"
I shook my head. No. She knows the deal already. He grinned.
"I want to let you in on a little secret, just between you and me. When I first started doing this job, I thought that I had a pretty finely tuned moral compass. But after a few mercy killings and real-world trolley problems, I started to realize something. The right choice and the moral choice aren't always the same thing. It's possible to do the right thing for the wrong reason, or the wrong thing for the right reason. You can be forgiven for little mistakes, even if they cause a lot of people to die, gruesome deaths."
Thanks, I said, uncertainly.
Jack, forgive me for asking, but you are certain you saw the Queen die, right?
Am I really that bad at lying, or do I just constantly encounter people with bullshit detectors set to 11? Yeah, I'm sure. He laughed.
"Well, I guess we'll find out in 5 years, huh?"
He raised his voice and called out to the others.
"All right, double time it. Wheels up in 30 minutes. Gotta leave time for the cleanup crew."
A few minutes after the cleanup crew arrived, Jerry and Lucy approached me.
"Hey man," Jerry said, "we're about to go back to my place and do like all the drugs. You wanna come?"
Before I could answer, my eyes caught something standing in the tree line across the parking lot. Something watching us with 2 shining red eyes. He was a raccoon. See, I know it could have been nothing more than the remnants of Jerry's playing tricks on me, but I could have sworn that this raccoon had an aura.
One that was 10 feet tall. Glowing green. And angry. Hey there kids, it's me, Mr. Creepypasta, and we are back after Halloween. So, I want to give a big thank you to my Patreons. Those specifically are the ones that are in the description, and Joey Gilbert, Daniel Poulsen, Trace Miles, Jordan Alexander Sanchez, Wayne Milstead, Chumpinski, Ken Lando Higuchi, Brianna Tine-Janzen, Buddy Burroughs, Stephen VanHuss, Tristain Pelton, G Weevil 3, Asia, the Red Oak Shield Virus, Sandy Barney, Nico Kaeo, Caleb Dougal, Dante Rao, Last Blade Song, The Ginger Bros, Don Mewmeister, Eliminator 86, Nebsky, Alex, Steampunk Sinner, The Rafael Rodriguez, Optimistic Avocado, and Dr. Strawberry. If you guys would like to join them, you can always head over to patreon.com/MrCreepyPasta. Even helping with $1 actually helps keep me alive. So, a big thank you to all of you who are there from $1 all the way up to however much that you guys give. Thank you. I appreciate you guys subscribing and checking back with the channel every single day because, dear Lord help me, we are on daily uploads, meaning new horror stories from me here at Mr. Creepypasta on YouTube or Mr. Creepypasta on Spotify. Sweet dreams, kids.